coffee right now.
I never do that to Zach whatsoever.
Yeah, right.
You
And
never do
my
that to
name
Zach?
is.
You guys,
The the,
I
the
feel
Luke
flattered you guys copied me over on your show, by the way. Thank you.
Did we
cop
copy it?
with what?
Oh yeah, because you'll do the cold opens every now and then.
No, I just did because I got tired of people just talking, talking, talking. So I just go.
Yeah, I know. But
that's like that's the only reason I started doing
I
it because
like it. That's what I like about if I ever do listen to Joe Rogan's podcast. That's what I like. It's like you come in the middle of a. It's kind of like if you walk into like a comic shop or a coffee house or something. Like you walk in, you see people there. They're already in the middle of a conversation. It kind of gives off that same vibe. So I kind of dig it.
Yeah, that's where I got the idea actually, and I listened to him. He was explaining why he does the cold opens because he was talking about like some of the best conversation happens like before they like roll the cameras, and he said he would have some people that would get on his show, and like as soon as they knew the camera was like rolling, they would like kind of clam up or get kind of self conscious, and it would be like less natural. So he just started rolling it, and they didn't know, and it just helped open things up. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Pretty neat.
so just like you're doing it now, you copy Joe Rogan. You admit it's on
Exactly.
there.
Just like right now, we are live on Late Night Comics. Catching Zach unawares is what we like to do with his pants
And
down. And
I mean,
I never want to catch him with his pants down. That's
oh,
just
that's not true. You guys are always like, stand up, see what you're wearing.
what's he wearing? Yeah, don't give him that bull, RDV.
I'll never give him a
Uh,
bull. Bulls are expensive these days. I can't afford to give them away.
Oh yeah, I mean cows in general. Yeah.
Right?
yes. But it's good for all those Texas ranchers.
Oh yeah.
They're
God
making
bless
a lot,
Texas.
lot more money. Like I
Mm.
can't afford to eat any meat, but you know, like
I stretch it out. I make it like I'll get like 2 pounds of ground beef. I think I could still find like 2 pounds of ground beef for like $5 or $6, and I'll just divide it up, and I can make several meals out of it. Yeah, but you gotta plan. You gotta budget your groceries.
Yeah. You gotta
I
really stretch it out.
I just found out that I can cook potatoes in a rice cooker and they come out perfectly. So I'm super stoked about that. Like I don't have to
really.
like watch. I don't have. Yeah, you. I had some red potatoes that I diced up, and it's a little rice maker. It's like I got it for $15 at Walmart. But you dice them up. You put like an inch or so of water in the little bowl with the
Hmm.
potatoes, and then what I did and I think this worked out really well. I took like a little beef bouillon cube and I put it like right in the middle so it like melts down as the water gets hot and the steams. And so it turns the water into like a broth. And so you have these potatoes cooking in this like beef broth and they're getting like steamed and heated and they come out perfectly. You don't have to watch them. You don't have to like stir occasionally. You just set the rice maker to cook and wait however long it takes it to go. And you have like perfect steamed or boiled potatoes.
Hmm. And you've only done red potatoes with that way?
I've only have red potatoes right now. I think when I run out of these, because I get like big sacks of potatoes when I go buy them, and I'll just go through them.
Mm.
So I think the next time I may try gold potatoes.
Oh, that would be good
Uh,
too.
Russet potatoes are really good.
Are those bigger or are they smaller?
There is
Russets are the
well,
big
there's
brown ones that they you
yeah.
make French fries.
I don't think I could fit a russet in this little rice
Well,
maker
I'm just
that
saying.
I have.
Well, I'm just saying you could skip all that. You could just cut it up, fry it a little bit, throw some cheese on there, like and eat it.
Oh, maybe.
You know.
Yeah, russets are
Uh,
good for baked potatoes and fries.
oh, they're great.
I
But
do
if you're
love
gonna
a good
steam
baked
potatoes,
potato.
I would do yellows. Do you have an air fryer by chance?
No, not yet. I've been
Dude, you
wanting
need an
to
air
get one.
fryer. Those are
That's what
good
I've been
too.
told.
Cooking potatoes in the air fryer.
Mhm.
Mm.
I heard pizza rolls in an air fryer was supposed to be really good.
Yeah, anything you're reheating, if like it opens up frozen fried food. Like before, you're like, but all of a sudden, like pizza rolls, um,
So would you say an air fryer works better than a microwave for like reheating?
way yes, way
Okay.
better. Especially like even
Okay.
reheating. Like, you've ever had like fast food cold fries? You just like toss them in
Hmm.
the air fryer, put it on like 2 minutes, heats them all up. They get kind of like crispy again. You put them in the
Oh,
microwave, they get all
nice.
wilted and greasy
Oh
and
yeah,
nasty.
microwaved cold fast food fries are the worst. That should be
Worst.
like food that we use in prison. Like
Yeah,
that.
but if
That's
you put them in the
literally
air
prison food.
fryer, as long as you don't do it too long, otherwise you'll like burn them. But just a couple
Right,
minutes,
right.
they come back up and it feels like they're like fresh. And like reheating chicken is way better. If you have microwave chicken, it's
Hmm.
but yeah, any like the frozen stuff works so much better. Like if like frozen fries are kind of like meh, they never come out right, but an air fryer, they come out perfect. Um, so yeah, but we're not here to talk about all that stuff. We're here to talk about comics.
Well, I was just saying, anybody turn this on? It's just basically like one of those weird like those podcasts. You turn it's like you're like, what is this? And you just can't help but listen to one of those. You're like, you're talking about food, but I know this is a comic book thing, but it's like it's just like literally I'm listening here, and maybe I don't know, maybe it's I'm just overtired, but I'm just listening to Zach just ramble on about food and like just different potatoes. You know, you're talking about air fryer. It's like that should be the topic.
Yeah, we should. We should just have
So,
we should start a podcast: air frying and rice cooking. Um,
everything you heard me say is pretty much the extent of my knowledge, though. So it's not like
No,
I can't make multiple episodes.
now
honestly,
you,
it would be one piece in eating food.
It'd be One Piece, Lord of the Rings, and then one of the books we're talking about tonight. Actually, those are my 3 areas of expertise that I could talk about forever.
very good.
I,
Well,
I want to
speaking of,
want to prep. As a secret, quickly, Zach. From now on, I want a prep stream where you're just like I want you to so you're making your food step by step. We'll do it. We can upload it on the channel.
Just tape myself cooking. Dude, there are channels that do that. Like people that do that just like cook in front of a camera. They're not professionals, but they
No,
get like all these views because the recipes are supposedly really good.
what you need to do is get your sister make one of those really disgusting food things where they put all the food in there in one thing. She bakes and stuff, and it adds this layers.
Ugh.
Tell you, it's disgusting, but those
I'm
get a
not
lot of hits.
I'm not hungry anymore. Just thinking of that. Ugh. I
well,
was getting hungry. Now I'm not.
speaking of being hungry and not letting Ash segue properly in his own show,
Well, sorry,
today
you
is
don't have any guy.
9/11.
Hey,
Hush.
Yes.
Good
you have the
Lord.
guy in the
You're
segue.
worse
He
than
died.
England. Today is 9/11, so it's appropriate that we at least memorize or not memorize,
For
remember.
45 more minutes.
Remember, yes.
Yes, it always is gonna be 45 minutes as long as Venkman won't shut up.
Well, no, then it's over.
Can't even silence for the dead.
I did about 45 minutes ago.
No, you didn't.
I did.
So this is where everyone tunes out.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'd feel it's appropriate. We're gonna be talking on 9/11. It's not things that's like pleasant to remember, but I hate the fact that important things get swept under the rug. We're now living in a generation where people are becoming adults and they never remember. They were never part of this. They were born after this
Oh,
event. So
well, like all the kids in my youth group, like none of them were even born yet. Like I
right.
tried to explain to some of the boys in my youth group last week, and they're like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "Yeah," because they're all like
There are people old
12,
enough to
14,
buy
15.
liquor that were not born.
That we're not born yet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like explaining the Gulf War. Unless you lived during that time, you're not really gonna like remember it. You know when it happened, how long it was.
Right.
Like you can learn about it, but
Yeah.
it's like it's not gonna like I know all about Pearl Harbor, but it's not gonna impact me like it did my papa, who was alive
Right.
when it happened.
So I just wanted to just kind of have that memorial, if you will, just bringing it up. I think this should be in the conversation of everyone at least once a year, if not more.
Mhm.
But also, there's something to remind people of is there were 2 9/11s. And the second
There
one gets
were.
often overshadowed by the first. But in 2012, on 9/11, the Benghazi, the compound in Benghazi where the American diplomat was staying was attacked. They made a movie about it called 13 Hours, which, if anyone hasn't seen, I recommend it. It's a Michael Bay film, but if that makes you cringe, it's not your typical Michael Bay film. This is actually a serious film, really well done. It might be the best film he's ever made.
First John Krasinski movie, right?
Not his first, but it was one of the bigger ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was definitely very good in it. The 13 hours film um focuses more on the actual attack and these guys trying to survive, and doesn't feature like the political ramifications before and afterwards of how this all led up. But still, it's a good movie even if you're not interested. It's just a good movie. Um, but this is something particularly meaningful to me. I remember just like 9/11. I lived through this, and I remember watching it live, like as things were happening. I remember the Air Force they're told to stand down. They had 30 minutes away in Italy because Benghazi's in North Africa, right across the Mediterranean is Italy. There was an Air Force base. They had Black Hawk helicopters ready to go in. They were going to go get these guys, and Hillary Clinton, speaking for President Obama, who remained silent on the whole issue so that he could have deniability, um, and not be wrapped up, said, nope, stand down, don't go in. And they just stood by like good cops in Uvalde, Texas, and let everyone die. And it was a tragic moment in American history. So remember those guys as well. And there you go. So we are not a political show, so I'm not going to linger on this. Uh, but I just wanted to take a moment because it is 9/11. Today is 9/11.
Yes.
And so I think it's
I remember.
important.
I remember I was in like a sophomore, junior year, probably around sophomore, and I remember like during our U.S. history class, it turned out we watched it. One of the girls was emotional because she had a family member that was over there in one of the buildings, so she was excused.
Oh,
But that
Mm.
but I remember they didn't send us home. They did like because where we are is nowhere near that state. They're just kind of like, yep, we'll just continue school like normal. People who had family members were allowed to leave, obviously.
yeah.
But yeah, but the rest of us continued on like normal. So I,
Mm.
like, and then when we were watching, we weren't watching it. Guys, like my sister, she's 11 years older than I am. She remembers watching it and seeing the people who were like actually show you like, the people jumping out of the building. Like
Oh yeah,
I
I
never
remember
saw
that.
I never
Oh
saw that stuff because when I came back and watched the videos on 9/11, I was like, dude, I don't it's like I can't believe that was on live television. Like that just seems like a movie, you know?
yeah, it was.
And
I
just being
remember
out
seeing
there,
the bodies, people jumping. That
but
was.
yeah,
I
I
and then
think the.
saw. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say just I guess the prospect of falling to your death is a lot less bad than burning alive. You know.
Yeah,
well, I mean, just
I can see that.
seeing someone jump out of it, and you're like, that's a real person doing this.
Yep.
This isn't a movie. This is a stunt. This is CG. That's a real person jumping. You're like,
Right.
and then you see the buildings crumble. Like one goes down, and then they're like, okay. Then the second one finally goes, and then you see the dust cloud. Everybody going, and then I remember for weeks they were shifting through trying to find just bodies because they knew they were dead. There's no way people could survive, and
Oh,
then they
there's
had
no
all the
way. Yeah.
bodies, you
Yeah. There's
know,
no way.
and just the whole how everyone pretty much just came together after that for like it was the most craziest thing I've never seen. Like both Republicans and Democrats, whenever what race you are, we're all together as one, you
Yep.
know. And
Yep.
Yeah.
that and then by 2000 was it 12 or was it 2008? 2008 when Obama came over, and then it was divided.
Yeah. Our
For
country
Yeah.
for
became.
8
Our,
years, we were all together.
yep.
Hmm.
It was insane. I was like, I've never seen that before, and it's like it's clearly so. I mean, I'm trying to get political. I'm just saying, like for 8 years, for those who remember, pretty much there was no really strife. We're all pretty much like, yeah, let's go to war, like, to get revenge. And then now it's like, yeah, and that didn't happen whatsoever. You know, it's politics or back to normal if they are normal. But it was just like weird. It's kind of like World War II. You hear about how like at Christmas it was neutral. Nobody shot each other.
That was World War One.
No, World War II though. It was like that too, kind of like that. They kind of
Was
like
it? I remember World War One. There's that story where it's like the Germans and the British they stopped firing at each other in the trenches.
that
Yeah.
was
In the trenches. Yeah.
my grandfather said the same thing. He was an easy company.
Oh, okay. I didn't
And
know it was in World War Two. I've only ever heard it
yeah,
in
well,
World War One.
Yeah, and at least where he was, he said they kind of had like peace and quiet,
Yeah.
and then but yeah, I can't imagine anybody uh jumping to their deaths or being crushed or burned. That it is the most horrifying way to go. Um, I mean, I remember Daryl Worley did that song. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
That song was like the number one song, and like and Toby Keith, we're gonna put in their ass. It's the American way. Like everyone was so patriotic, and then all of a sudden, like Hollywood stepped in and says, "No, we can't do it anymore. Sorry,
Yeah.
we're gonna."
It's funny. I've been watching a bunch of like NCIS reruns, and a lot of the like there are a lot of episodes that take place like during the War on Terror, and so you get like references to it a lot. It's just like, yeah, I don't know if they would do that today. But yeah, no, definitely. I think that's the last time I remember seeing like country, like nationwide, that level of unity. We'll see it down here in the South every now and then, like after like a big hurricane hits. You,
Katrina.
yeah, well, Katrina, well, not even Katrina, but like I mean, any hurricane that hits the South. There was that one that hit Houston,
Oh yeah, people had to get in their
um,
boats.
where
Yeah.
people had to get in boats. We had like a big flood in Baton Rouge back in 2016, and you would just see everybody, every race, every whatever. Pick your demographic, but nobody was like, "Oh, that person voted for Trump. I'm not gonna go pick him up in my boat and help." Like there was, so I have seen that on a more local level, but yeah, nationwide, I don't think. I think 9/11 might be the last time that I saw that.
And
So,
Brewer's in the chat, and he's talking about how his school saw the Challenger blow up on TV.
oh
And
wow,
I missed that. I was late
yeah.
to school that day, and so I was walking to school when it happened, and I got into class, and I walk into the classroom, and everyone's crying, and I'm like, "What the heck is going on?" And I remember I was a seventh grader, and I don't remember what I said, but I made some sort of crass comment, like that edgy boys do. It'd be like, "Oh, did someone die?" Or it's just like, just totally off color, like just And they had the TV going because they were going to watch the Challenger, and I looked over and I saw like the replaying the Challenger blowing up and everything, and it was like, whoa! It was like a surreal moment that's now embedded in my memory, and just like you guys were saying, like they didn't let us go home either. We just had to kind of get through the school day, and I don't even remember the rest
Yeah.
of the day is just a blur. I just remember what those like first moments of coming into class. Marani says her memory of 9/11 was frantically calling United Airlines to see if her cousin was one of the pilots that day. Thankfully, he wasn't. Yeah, whew, man, that's just what a
But yeah,
horrible day for anyone that
it
was like
was
had loved ones involved in that.
was it what state was it? Indiana they had the field crash, or what was it
I thought it was
Pennsylvania. I think it was
Pennsylvania.
yeah,
Pennsylvania?
Yeah,
Pennsylvania. That was the one that was supposed to hit the Pentagon, I think.
Yeah.
yeah,
Or was it the no, because they did have. I thought did they have
yeah.
one?
There
They
were
had
two
one
that
hit
were
the
supposed to go to the
Pentagon.
Pentagon. Only one
Yeah,
hit.
okay, okay.
Um,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
um,
I was homeschooled, so I remember I got a phone call from a friend of mine. I think I just finished breakfast or something. So yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah, 22 years.
yeah, it's crazy that so many years have gone by. Oh man, it almost feels like it was just a couple years ago for me.
Hmm.
But 22. I was at the convenience store the other day, and they have these like little digital clocks now at the Circle K that I go to, and it basically says like it has like a current like time. It's like if you were born before this day, you're not old. Like you can't buy
Uh,
liquor, right?
you can't. Yeah, I've seen
And
those.
so,
Yeah.
but it just has a date and it's constantly updating itself. And I guess that makes it easier for the clerks to not have to do math in their head. But I walked in and it was like September, blah, 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 whatever day it was, like September 6th, I think is, whatever, 2002. And I was like, September. I was like, wow, I feel old that you could be born in 2002 and you could buy liquor. I was like, oh man.
Wow.
Um, so
Speaking of old, Nancy Pelosi, 83 years old, is running for office again.
Yeah. God.
she'll win.
Yeah. Okay. We need to get on. I'm gonna rant if we keep on talking about politics. And I know that this is not that type of stream.
Yeah.
I have a
Let's
lot of
move on
thoughts on
to
this.
One Piece.
Of
I've been
course.
watching a few more episodes. I remember
Nice.
last time
You were a
I
little
was a little
underused.
harsh on the show. I still don't, the show's definitely not made for me, but I'm warming up to it. Um, I'm finding myself at least enjoying it. It's not making me mad while I'm watching it. It's not making me like want to walk away, you know. So that's a good thing. There's
Yeah,
enjoyable
Flash.
moments. There are, yeah, dude, seriously, there's episodes of Flash I want to like break things. Um, but there are some heartwarming moments. Um, and I think like there's some like low key, I don't want to say brilliance, but some really impressive like undertones that are in there that I believe are pulled from the original, just in sort of how the characters are. I'm at the point now where the episode where, this is going to be a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen, but where the girl, what's her name,
Nami.
Nami, where she betrays Luffy and goes off. It's like she was one of the bad pirates the whole time,
Oh
and
yeah.
Luffy has this moment where he's like, no, this can't be. And the thing is interesting about this character is he's like the super idealist. He's like the innocence of a child. He's got the, like he's just ultimately naive in a way. Like he's just like, nope, I'm gonna be the pirate king. I'm gonna do this. Like, and he, it's contagious, and there's nothing necessarily bad about it other than the fact that it sets you up for problems like being betrayed. And the look on his face and just the idea of like reality kind of setting in for him and him having to face these things that he's never had to face before, I thought was pretty well done, and made me very interested. I like to see, one of my favorite characters is Zoro, despite I think the actor, he looks the part, like screen presence, he fits very well. I just don't think his acting is that good, but I like that character. Um, I do kind of gravitate towards the brooding badass who doesn't have a whole lot to say, the Boba Fett types of the world. So I like the character, but I liked how he's like, I'm not gonna be a pirate. I'm a pirate hunter. And watching like Luffy slowly like work on him and him change, and by the end of the episode, he's like, by the ends of the earth, you'll be my captain and I'll be your first mate. And I was like, that's really, really cool. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't masterfully done, but it was well enough done, and you don't see a lot of that in storytelling today. And so I was really
There's
appreciative of that. I also
There's a
liked,
really.
I also
Oh yeah.
liked,
Sorry.
man, I'm gonna say this one too, because this one, there was a scene where they're doing a flashback of Zoro, who's the swordsman,
Hmm.
and he's showing him when he was a kid. But by the way, the kid that they get to play young Zoro, fully, I'm like, I could believe that that's the actor, like as a kid. Like I'm like,
Oh
they
yeah.
spot on got such a great, um and so his whole thing is this kid wants to be the best swordsman and stuff. And of course, who's the best swordsman in the school is this little girl. And I was like, oh, of course. And I'm like, well, it's based on an anime, so that's, I could see that being. And I was just
her
going,
explanation. Though.
so I'm going, I'm watching it, and I'm like, it's just my problem is I'm infected with modern storytelling. And so I have biases and I have prejudices now that are kind of like built in. I'm like waiting for it, and I'm like, oh, this is so lame. Of course, she's the best and everything. And then there's a moment where she has a vulnerability side, and he challenges her to a duel, and she beats him, of course. And then she's like, has this moment of vulnerability, and he's like, wait, what's wrong? And he's like, yeah, I'm better than you now, but I won't always be. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're a boy. And he's like, what? And he's like, yeah, you're gonna grow up, you're gonna be stronger, faster. I'm not going to be able to compete with you. I'm not going to be able to compete with any. And I was just like, is this Netflix? I was like, what am I watching? And I was like, to say that out loud in a show, I was like, it made me take notice, and I was like, okay, this show on the outside can make one come in and go, if you don't know anything better and you're just used to 2023 television and movies, and you see the characters with the pink hair and all the stuff, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, this show is woke. But at that moment, I was convinced. I was like, oh, you ain't woke. There ain't no woke showmakers that are gonna put a line like that in their show. Um, and then they make the two make a pact to one of them's going to be the best, and they're going to both like better each other. And I was like, okay. So
Yeah,
I really appreciated that scene. Go ahead, Venkman. You've been waiting to say something.
yeah. So obviously, you come in. You're one of those people that you're more scrutinized than I do when it comes to stuff. I never had the whole thing. I was like, is this pink hair, blue hair? It's gonna be woke. But I honestly, I watched the anime and I was like, oh great, like let's see how much this is exactly like the anime. I just can't get past the anime, the art style. But you know, once I started watching it, it's like the main character, how infectious he is, his personality. And when I learned about the anime, it's like that the character's supposed to be like Luffy is supposed to be a pure-hearted character. I was like, no wonder he's like a freaking like beacon of hope. No matter what, we're gonna do this. And there's a scene. There's a scene where the girl betrays him. We got he's talking to Zoro who's unconscious, and like you see every moment, he's actually sits in. He's like the guy is like, wow. He's like I don't know what to say to Zoro. He's like, well, just talk. You know, is it reachable? He's like, and I love how he kind of has a little character growth. But what I really liked, as I read up about this, is that the main manga artist, the writer creator, had well complete control of the Netflix show.
I
He made
don't
him
know if I would say
what
he
He
had
doesn't have
complete
complete
control.
control.
well
But,
no
but what
he,
what it was is the showrunners ran everything by him, and he did have conditions like
Yeah.
you can't put romantic attachments between the crew because that's like a big thing he's about. He doesn't want to like put couples together on his crew. So he had like conditions, but I wouldn't say he was like he
well
didn't
no
write it. Yeah,
so no
but
so what I was trying to say is that
okay.
he made them reshoot a lot of different scenes. They matched the because he said you can have the anime fit the manga. It's possible. Because he said Shaolin Soccer proved it. And that's why a lot of the scenes we see how Luffy jumps around, does his stuff, is pretty much it's a Soccer that they had that movie, the string wire stuff. So if it wasn't for that, for that, Kung Fu Plus and all that stuff, you never would have got a live action like of the show, and I never would have watched it or had extra appreciation because I said like One Piece, man. I still, I've always one of those things. I tried watching anime. I'm like, this is crap. I don't want people like it. But the fact that the show is always cut is a summarized version of the anime, but it still keeps the heart of it. You know,
That's
Yeah.
one
to
thing
me,
I love. There's
yeah.
memes about that I love. It's like everybody sees One Piece and they think, oh, it's just this goofy cartoon about a rubber kid and la la la, and then you get into it and there's like these deep themes of like, there's, just things like, oh, it's about hope and following your dreams, and then you're like, it's also like f the government because there's a big like world government that is always ruining everyone's day.
Actually,
Uh,
I
yeah,
covered a book called The Boys, which most people write off as just being, it's just him just hating on capes and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
But they don't actually take the time to actually read it and realize there's actually more to it than what just the surface level.
that's true.
Sure, yeah, there's a lot of.
Are y'all gonna watch the new? Speaking of, this is off topic. Are y'all gonna watch the new Boys spinoff that they're doing, like the
I'll give it
Academy?
I'll give it a shot.
I'll give it a shot
It
too. I don't watch there's already a spinoff that's an animated.
yeah,
Forget
that
what
one's
it's
about like
called.
villains or something, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
the
I
boys
stopped
villains or
watching
something.
it because it is what you would judge The Boys to be on the surface if you haven't read it, where you'd think, oh, it's just debauchery and filth and everything. And like what Vankman was just saying, it's like, no, when you actually like read the story, there's like a lot of undertones to it, and it's way more than what you see on the surface. And then I watched that animated thing, and I'm like, nope, that's all this is. This is just disgusting filth. Like, there's one
Yeah.
episode where these reject heroes just essentially all get together and go murder their parents.
Oh,
That's the story. Not there's nothing to learn about it. There's nothing like they just were like, "Oh, we were neglected as kids and they sold us off to this corporation and now we grown up and we're pissed and we're going to kill our parents." And they do. The end.
jeez.
It's yeah, I'm like this is vile. So I had
Yeah.
to it made me sick to my stomach. I was like, I'm not going to watch that. But just finishing up One Piece here.
Yeah.
I
Sorry.
want to say, because this is kind of my journey. Obviously, you guys are big fans of it more so than me. I'm trying to like it. I have been watching some of the anime again. I've been trying to see if I can pick it up. I am struggling with it. Mostly, I'm struggling with the anime because it's very clear that One Piece's target audience is like 8-year-olds, right? Like if I was 8 years old watching that cartoon, the anime, I mean, it's like the same audience as Pokemon. Like it's nothing wrong with that. 8-year-olds are great and they need stuff too. I'm 50 years old, or I'm about to be. It doesn't resonate quite as well with me. Um, the Netflix show takes much of the themes and the ideas of the anime, ups the age group a little bit. I would say that the Netflix show is a fine, like, family show. It's like the
Yeah.
same target audience as family sitcoms used to be kind of in the 90s, you know?
Like Growing
Um,
Pains and all that stuff.
growing pain, yeah, growing
Ah,
pains, things like
growing
that. Like if
pains.
you are a family and you have kids that are anywhere between 8 and teenager, like this show I think is going, I mean, even in your 20s, I mean, obviously you guys like the show too, so it's got a very wide audience level. um
Yeah.
and I think that there's room for that. I particularly like things a little bit more on the serious note. I don't like the goofball antics, the silliness. Silliness, it's a fine line for me because I'm a big fan of Shaolin Soccer,
Oh,
and I
it's
read that interview that RDV referred to, that the manga creator was saying like he didn't want to adapt it, and then he saw Shaolin Soccer and was like, oh, I guess we could do this. Whatever reason, Shaolin Soccer and Kung Fu Hustle do it right. This show doesn't quite do it the same level. I wish if this show captured what those two movies did, I'd probably be a bigger fan. But I'm trying to stay open minded. I'm trying to give it a shot. There are things I like about it, but I'm not going to just pretend just to jump on a bandwagon and be like, I'm one of the cool kids. Like
I
I'm be
I'm
I'd be disappointed if you did.
yeah.
so I want to say though is I had such a fun time watching mainly because the Vice Admiral is basically like the twin brother of like Gerard Butler.
He kind of does give off Gerard Butler
The
vibes.
way
He kinda
he
his
does.
accent, yeah, it's just like it's Gerard Butler. Like why didn't he just get Gerard Butler?
Well, he probably cost a lot of money to hire.
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
Well, I'm
Gerard
glad.
Butler's Gerard Butler's a movie star, so
Yeah,
he's a B movie star.
he has gone down. Like I don't think
he
he's
he
done
has
anything
lost
really
his stock
big.
value, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
point is, movie stars have an aversion to doing TV. There's
Yeah.
like an old belief in Hollywood that if you go from movies to TV, you never go back. Like it's like a downgrade. And so most movie stars will hold on as much as they can because if they ever go into TV, they're done. It's kind of, and whether that's 100% true or not, I think that's changing, especially in the era of streaming,
Yeah.
because
Right.
some of the streaming stuff is like high budget, like the HBO. And so
Mhm.
I think HBO kind of broke that mostly. You're seeing movie
Well,
stars do some of the serious content on HBO. So you never know.
I don't think it's just that. I think they're able to just go in and record their line for a movie and get that done faster than
Yeah,
going in for TV
I've heard
series
that. Yeah, I've heard that shooting for a series, you have like longer shoots, you know,
commitments.
commitments that go
there
on
is
for like.
that too, for sure.
Yeah,
Like it is
so I've
much
heard that.
much this
because
is
I
this
think it
is
was
like more grind work than a movie. But
yeah, right.
it
That's why
also
Stallone
depends on the
says
movie
he,
though,
yeah.
because Keanu Reeves, dude, the stuff that Keanu Reeves went through to film The Matrix is
Oh
just
yeah.
like he was like over a year filming and training and doing all this stuff for that for like
That's true.
one movie. I was like,
Well,
dang. It's like
That's true.
well, also the thing is that Keanu is the main star of the movie. When you're just like a side character, like you say, like you're not the main star, means that you can come in, fill your lines, But like
Maybe, yeah.
I feel like Keanu knew like they're gonna get a threequel out of it.
I don't know if he knew that. I think that he was probably surprised to get news of the
I don't know. I think
sequel.
RDV is
Think?
onto that. Yeah, because one of the reasons Keanu they talked about him being really a genius because when he took the role for the Matrix, his negotiation was less on the front end. Like he's like, you don't have to give me a big paycheck. He negotiated for percentage of the back end.
Oh,
And people
smart.
afterwards were just like, and he just became filthy rich from that movie because, of course, it was a massive success.
It was the Matrix, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, look at that, and actually, the he kind of, from my understanding, changed a lot of the negotiation practices in Hollywood afterwards because a lot of stars kind of saw and they're like, because before that it was just flat paycheck, give me X amount of money to do this movie, and
Yeah.
you used to gauge movie stars like who the biggest stars were. I remember like after Titanic, Leonardo was capturing 25 million per flick because everyone was like, oh, Titanic was, um, and yeah, Keanu kind of broke that, and he's like, yeah, just give me this, but I want like 1% of the back end or something. Which, well, 1%, sure, yeah, but its movie makes billions. You're like,
Yeah,
whoa.
right.
Um, so, all right, let's go ahead and transition away from this. We'll get into our comic next. Let me see the Ed Brewer saying once upon a time that was true regarding movie stars, not now. I think we addressed that. It is kind of changing. Ed saying I never thought I'd see Sly Stallone doing a series.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
never did
He could
either,
do a series.
but Sly is also kind of at the end of his career. He's an old dude. Like,
I wonder
not
though
only is
with
Sly
this.
doing a series, he did a reality show. Come on, when you do a reality
I
show, you're done.
He's still making movies.
Yeah,
Expendables
yeah.
4 comes out pretty soon.
Yeah, he still do movies. He's got
Yeah.
he did Samaritan. He did the Samaritan while he was working on the TV show.
Yeah. So he's still
The Samaritan was a direct to streaming movie. That doesn't count.
It's
And
still a movie. Whether it's a
well,
flop or it's a hit, yeah,
yeah, well,
it's
so was a
still
made-for-TV movie. It's not the same. It's not
it's
the
just,
same.
it's the same length. You
Yes,
still
but
got
it's
enough
not the
scenes. You
same
got
as in stature. It's movie star. There's a reason why movie stars don't do Hallmark movies, for example. It's still a movie, but you know,
yeah.
that wasn't what I was talking about. And like I said, once you do a reality show, you're done. You're done.
Unless your name is Donald Trump.
He didn't
Yeah,
become a movie star afterwards. I'm talking about being a
Nope.
movie
He
star.
became a president. Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was
I'm
like,
saying if you're a
he
movie
became
star and then you go to do a reality show, and I'm not talking about like you went on Celebrity Survivor. I'm talking about a reality show made about like you. You
Jean-Claude
know,
Van Damme.
yeah, he was done. What's Jean-Claude Van Damme done? The Expendables, yes, he's doing the Expendables, but that's because that's his franchise. That's like Vin Diesel
right.
doing his things. Um, but whatever. Um, I like Sly Stallone, so I'll probably watch Expendables 4. I'm not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of worried though a little bit because like man, I want to watch his new season for his show. I forgot what the hell is it called again? Tulsa King. Yeah,
Tulsa King. Well, you'll be waiting for a
With-
while.
with-
The strike is
I know
gonna
with the strike.
put a lot of
I'm
people.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So,
what I
It's
was
gonna
kind of.
it's gonna delay season 2 of One Piece too. They've already got plans to go. They're just waiting on the strike to end.
it's gonna delay
So,
so much. I
so
see people on Twitter making their little comments about like, oh look, we're still having a strike and no one cares. And I'm like, yeah, that's because all the stuff that was in the pipeline is still coming out. But next
yeah,
That's
year
true.
and the year after, when like your shows aren't coming up the next seasons, or you're not getting the movie sequels you've been waiting for, then you're gonna start caring because these things take time. It's not like, oh,
Oh
movies
yeah.
people on strike and everything just stops. you know.
Well, I'll say this: I'm looking forward to more seasons of All of Us Are Dead. Give me all the Korean shows I've been watching. More seasons.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you can have them.
Well, they're better than the Hollywood shows. Like they're better than Yellowstone. Uh,
What? Have you even seen Yellowstone?
yes, I've seen Yellowstone.
I haven't seen
No,
Yellowstone.
I'm talking the TV show Yellowstone.
I
Yep.
watched the prequel, the one with what's his name, Sam Elliott. I want to watch the one that has Harrison Ford. I hear that one's really good.
Tulsa King was way better.
I
Trolling.
better than
He
Harrison
hasn't seen them.
Ford.
He hasn't
What?
seen them.
1928? Yeah, it was not fun.
He hasn't seen it.
It was boring.
I don't buy it. Don't believe him. Fake
I'm
news.
aghast.
I'm not here to prove anything to you, Ash. Other than that, Godzilla, There Be Dragons is a great book.
Oh, is that the one we're talking about first?
Well, if you look at the live stream,
I'm looking now.
Yeah. I do want to watch Yellowstone. I don't actually know if it's good or bad, but a lot of people seem to like it, and it's had several spin-off shows. Unfortunately, Paramount made really weird deals, and so you can't find Yellowstone, not even on Paramount Plus.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Disney and ESPN are back on Spectrum.
Yeah, I don't understand why anyone pays for cable services.
I do.
My dad does because it's easier to find all the sports games.
Sports packages, yeah. Yep.
That's the only reason, though.
I guess. I don't know. I still think I would get like YouTube TV if I were going to get that, but whatever. People get what they want.
You don't always get what you want. You get what you need.
Yeah. Anyways, there's good. My point was there's good stuff, and like The Boys. I mean, when are we gonna get that? I think that season might have wrapped up before the strike. I don't know,
Well,
but that's a
Invincible's
really great
coming
show.
out. Invincible, Bosch Legacy season 2 is coming out.
And there's people bitch about Hollywood, and there's lots to bitch about, but this is kind of also a golden age for TV. There's some really great shows out there.
Yeah, when everything sucks, the bar so low, you can really raise up your quality.
No, I think The Boys is a good enough show that it would have been great in any era. I think
in the 90s.
Oh yeah, The Boys would have been phenomenal in the 90s. No one had ever seen anything that well done.
It would be like Mutant X.
What's the other show that's on Prime? There's been several
Jack
shows
Ryan?
on. What was the one with Chris Pratt did that?
Terminalist.
Terminalist was really well done.
That was man. That turned me. I was like, Chris Pratt can like actually act and like be the serious guy.
I was shocked. I was like, oh my goodness, and it just was really well done.
There's supposed to be season 2 coming out soon or whatever.
Yeah, because he was filming it. Yeah.
Plus, you guys are loving One Piece, so there's a testimony to what Netflix
by
is
the time
doing.
One Piece gets filmed or whatever the thing, the strike will be over.
Hopefully.
Ed Brewer says Reacher. Reacher's another good show.
Oh, Reacher. Yeah, Reacher was good. I like the Jack Ryan series.
I did.
About John Krasinski.
I did like Jack Reacher, but like the more this guy runs his mouth, anti-Trump.
Alan Richardson.
Yeah, it's just like, shut up, dude. Just shut up. Let me enjoy the show.
I'm surprised. This guy. I gotta give him props. This guy was like, he had 2 spots as Aquaman on Smallville, and I had forgotten about him. And then all of a sudden, he just resurfaces as this action star.
Well,
I didn't watch Titans.
No, but dude, he was actually the best part about Titans. He was Hawk. It was awesome.
I've seen Donna Troy. I've seen the actress who plays Donna Troy. She looked like the best part of Titans.
You patriarchy. You're a patriarchy man. Sexist man.
Toxic masculinity rises again.
Donna Troy is underappreciated.
Speaking of underappreciated, let's talk about an underappreciated book called Godzilla, Here There Be Dragons.
Zach, you read this, right?
I read it 5 minutes before showing up on stream.
You don't have to reveal those things. You can keep the kayfabe up.
I was
just letting you know.
being honest.
Kayfabe, what? We don't talk about
What?
him here. We don't talk about kayfabe here.
Yeah, we do.
No.
You're the pro wrestling fan. You should be all about kayfabe.
I don't even know what y'all are talking about. You
I only know Kofi Kingston. I don't know.
Kayfabe,
wrestling fan.
kayfabe is the term.
I know it's a, yeah.
He's telling me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why they came with that name for the term for that, but it's supposed to be the whole thing of keeping it.
Let him tell me. Let him explain to me what kayfabe is. I don't know.
Bankman thinks that the show only exists for him, that no one else is listening.
You know what? Damn right it should. If I have to be up this late.
Oh, you're up this late anyway.
So kayfabe is the terminology that's in pro wrestling that is about maintaining the air of the fiction, right? So between the characters that the wrestlers are playing versus the matches themselves, that you're presenting it as if it's all real and that these characters are the real people. And breaking kayfabe is what the term is usually known for. It's kind of like when you're breaking kayfabe, you're revealing the behind the curtain. You're showing.
Gotcha.
And so.
But
there we go.
The problem is though that everything is kayfabe. Even if you breaking the curtain, it's still kayfabe. Everything's fake. It'll work. Anyway.
So Godzilla, here there be dragons.
So I gotta ask, did you guys just jump into? Did you just jump into this as just only the third issue, or did you go back and read the first two?
Zach?
Oh, is he talking to me? I just jumped in on this issue.
Okay.
All right. I read all 3 issues.
Because it might change your opinion if you only read the third.
I'll probably go back and read the first two.
I would agree.
I'm getting into a Godzilla Renaissance type of phase with, we've got all the movies, the monster movies that came out. They got the Apple TV show that's about to come out soon that looks really fun. So I'm like in my own little MonsterVerse Renaissance over here. So I'll probably go back and reread the first two.
Okay.
All right. And real quick, before we just start, Barania did type about the TV topic we were talking about. She likes Strange New Worlds. She has minor nitpicks about the characters, but overall has good echoes of the classic Star Trek. And
is that the ones about? That's the one about Captain Pike, like before Kirk.
Yeah, it's the Enterprise before Kirk.
I've heard about that. That one, I'm not a huge Star Trek fan, but I kind of do want to check that one out.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see it. I just haven't. I actually am a defender of Discovery, and season 2 of Discovery had the Enterprise in it. And I remember watching that season and being like, they need to make a show about this crew. and the Enterprise. I would watch that. And then they did, and I didn't watch it. So I do need to check it out. It's been on my to-do list. So Bankman, since this was your pick book and you're the big fan, why don't you take away the synopsis and we'll follow along?
Synopsis. So for those who haven't been reading this, Zach, well, the first 2 issues covers with basically this pirate here is pretty much really, to me personally, I don't know about you guys, but he's kind of like a Jack Sparrow, kind of a really kind of quirky, kind of a he's your pirate. He's a pirate all the way through, and he's being sent to the gallows. And then he says, "Wait, I have this story to tell you before I go and die." He's like, and the story is about this. It's about Sir Francis Drake, about the Queen Elizabeth, and they're like, the guard's not having it whatsoever. The execution, he's like, no, this time back in the day, if you besmirched, the Queen's name, that was the highest insult you could do. Like, it was very sacrilegious. And he says, well, no, it was Sir Francis Drake, and here's a reason with the whole Spanish Armada. And so anyway, at this point, basically he says, well, there was these, basically he served with Sir Francis Drake, and there was they ran into this giant mythical beasts they call monster, and how the Spanish Armada was destroyed the last issue, and he's kind of getting in it. And this guy pretty much came in at because the last issue we saw at the very end, he was about to be sent to the gallows because they were just tired of him. They're just gonna hang him. Now this issue, it starts off with him. He said he's taking this thing off his neck, and then there's a new guy there who's basically like the I forget what he's called. He's like the Queen's second in command, or her her prime minister.
Yeah, he's got a lord title. That's what I remember. So he's some nobility.
having caught wind of this story here, and like the guy pretty much is like he confirms like yeah, we've had suspicions that the queen's been a part of this, or at least there's a secret sect of a society that worships these monsters. And the main guy up there, the guy who's looking out, is giving a skull. Keeps he doesn't believe a word he's saying, and then I love how he basically is like, if you will keep interrupting him, you're gonna be his new bunkmate, pretty much. so, so he lets them continue talking, and we get back to basically where Sir Francis Drake, and well, basically he tells about there's just here's here. Throughout time, there's been monsters, and everybody tried to fight against them, and were feared, and then some were worshipped, like Mothra down there is worshipped. So they're showing it all, and Ghidorah's over on the right side, in the top part, and then there's like Cthulhu.
Yeah, I was like,
I think.
Cthulhu,
Yeah,
what's he doing down
I
there?
don't know. I don't know who that guy. Yeah, it does kind of look like Cthulhu, or it reminded me of those Mucinex commercials, like the giant booger guy. Kind of reminded me of that.
So
I like Rodan with the Mayans. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
so he shows how they've all been worshipped on these different monster communities. Some fought against them, they lost. Godzilla just killed them all. But here you go. Here's the
Ooh,
eyes.
yeah, yeah.
This, as I called this on my review back on Tuesday or Thursday. This is the eyes wide shut scene, pretty much, with the monster. And obviously in the middle, they're hinting that the Godzilla there with is the queen. That's Queen Elizabeth. And he says that even some of at all costs, they can't keep a secret, even if it costs them their death. They would, And here he's holding a monster coin, you know, um, because the gold that they're using it is basically what Sir Francis Drake was sent by Queen Elizabeth. The gold is back to this monster and retrieved the gold. He was pursued by the Spanish Armada, and which perished at basically Godzilla killed them all. And so basically that's obviously they see at the island because here he is. His pirate was the first mate on it. He witnessed everything, and and he basically explains like there's this one guy in the Spanish Armada. The reason why he was pursuing Drake is because when this captain of the Spanish Armada, when his wife and son were visiting, they were attacked by British ships, and they end up dying. So this guy is so freaking stubborn, been sent on revenge. He survived Godzilla basically destroying him and his fleet, and came out. And now it's like, I just love it. He's on the island with them. Here's the giant bats. If you got the Tyler Kirkman cover, and it is just like Land of the Lost, literally, with Pirates of the Caribbean, which I love. Uh, I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I dig the art. I've been digging the story. You have a Jack Sparrow type character, giant bats, then a giant lobster monster.
It's
You
Jordan
just
Peterson,
decapitates.
run!
Yeah, right. It's gotta be true. Yeah. So anyway, so this monster, will come into play later. But I love he makes a joke. He's like, "Well, I love lobster, but not that size lobster." Yeah, the size of a Fort Romulus, or a Fort Royals, and not twice as vicious. But this guy gets decapped. Oh, this is so bad. I felt bad. He gets eaten too, and they're all running. It's just basically, like I said, they're trying the second issue. They were trying to find a way to get off the island, but also to deal with the monsters. But also they want to bring the gold back too. So this
Of
is
course
like
they do.
it's all chaos, and then Sir Francis Drake had discovered the original captains, from the other crash ship, found his map and trying to make sense of it, and he figures, well, of course, where the treasure be in Godzilla's little cave, or
Or a
like to
big
call him.
cave. So it's
Big
got to be a
cave.
big cave to fit Godzilla.
Godzilla's a big dude.
I'm just gonna say it's pretty much Smog.
Yeah. Kind of
He's got
smog. Kind of like
and
smog.
and
Yeah.
the captain's Drake. He's like, "Give me a smart guy." He's like, "Well, the only way we're gonna get this gold out is by distraction, and the only distraction we know is that giant freaking lobster. Get them to fight, then we can go in there and steal the gold." This feels like a Star-Lord plot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We get these two big guys to fight. We go in there, we grab the gold before they know it, we're gone. Good.
Jordan Peterson, clean your room, Godzilla. All right. So,
And Godzilla's like, no, old
I,
man,
under-
do
I
it wrong.
understood that reference.
But
uh,
it's simple and straight to the point with a little bit of humor.
all right. Zach, you came in kind of cold on this, missing the first two issues. How was it jumping in on issue
This-
3, and how'd you think of the book?
So I liked it actually. These opening pages right here are Jack Sparrow looking guy, which he looks like he was drawn to look like Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
Like give him an eye patch to make him look. It's like copy my homework, but change things up so it doesn't look exactly like it. I liked it though. It reminded me of it's kind of like Arabian Nights or the Arabian Tales, like where
Yep.
that guy is like scheduled to be executed, but he just like goes on telling stories to stay his execution.
Yep.
It definitely reminded me of that. It reminded me. You mentioned Pirates of the Caribbean, Vinkman. It actually reminded me. I've been going back. I've been a big fan of the Assassin's Creed video games. It kind of reminded me more of that because like you've got these secret societies,
Uh,
these
and,
creepy masks, and they're
Ezio.
worshiping these like ancient monster gods. So it kind of gave me a bit of an Assassin's Creed vibe, but I liked it. I like the monster movies, but every time there's a giant monster movie, the weakest part is almost always without fail is the human element. Like, what are the humans doing? This actually kept me interested with like the human side of the story. Um, yeah, I like King Ghidorah. I liked seeing him and Mothra, and I just kept turning the page, hoping to see if King Kong would make an appearance, but not yet anyway. Um,
Yeah, that's the interesting part too. Is it focuses a lot on the humans and just rarely shows the monsters, But when it shows the monsters, it shows them just doing what we want them to do,
that's
and
true.
annihilating everything. Or Mothra being peaceful, being worshipped.
Yeah,
Ghidorah.
but yeah, now I will say I am reading. So I'm reading. There is a King Kong book coming out through Dynamite right now, where it's like these Nazis from World War II are washed up on Skull Island. And my nitpick with this book is the same one I have with that book. When we see this guy right here, and he's got like his crewmates and people, like you don't really get to know any of them. They're just kind of there to be like their cannon fodder, basically, or monster fodder. So it's like, okay, well, don't spend time, don't try to get attached to any of these guys, because this one's gonna go get eaten, that one's gonna be, eaten, uh, which is fine. I like seeing the monsters do what they do, but I
I
also like to have like some human characters to latch onto.
yeah.
But no, overall, I would actually like to see this made into a movie, like animated or live act. I would like to see like something in this time period, you know.
Yep.
Let's take Godzilla, let's take like the 1700s sailors or whatever. Using Francis Drake, I think, is really cool. It's a really neat choice, because a lot of this has to do with like Queen Elizabeth and British royalty and covering up conspiracy. It almost has a little bit of a National Treasure vibe in that sense. But
And
I
yeah.
enjoyed this though. Overall, I gotta say, I kind of when I got to the end, I was like, maybe I should go and read the first two and get like. I mean, you guys know this about me. I don't care for mini series or limited series. I like to have something that goes on and on and on. But this one piqued my interest.
Yeah.
I really liked it. Yeah.
The two things that captured for me was basically the personality of the pirate. This whole situation. He's telling a story like this. But then we get the Godzilla and you see the art, the blue flames, and it's just like,
Yeah.
and of course there's one guy who just survived. You're like, yeah, he's so determined, man, that of course he survives when he really should be dead. And of course he's gonna be the cause more grief for them. You know, uh and then yeah, the whole thing with Sir Francis Drake, I go back to Uncharted. So whenever you're Drake now, Sir Francis Drake, because that's because the ring he wears around his neck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but like, and just learning about what happened to Sir Francis Drake, and then trying to find his ship. People were always looking for it because he had a ship that had gold on it, but nobody knows where the ship is. The History Channel, I was watching that last year. But overall, it's like the guard who hates the pirate, and it just says like, oh, we should kill him, and then he's got like the guard's boss above him who also doesn't like the pirate, but then they're told like, yeah, you need to shut up and let them talk. It's like it literally, but then you get the parts like this. It's like we got Michael Clark Duncan up there on the left. But then, like, you look down, it's like you learn about this guy, like, his wife and his son, tragic. And I'm thinking, like, oh, that is horrifying and stuff. It's just like, well, and this goes my point: never go on boats in the middle of the ocean. I don't care what anybody says. Planes, boats, no, I'll go in a car.
Yeah, cars in the middle of the ocean. That's way better.
Yeah, that works. I actually I like boats. I would not mind as long as I have my my Dramamine. I'm good. I can be on a boat.
I watched the last voyage of the Demeter, and I never really want to step on a boat because then.
Yeah, this character here, Cortez Blanco, it seems like a very generic, uninspired name. But
Yeah.
I like his character. He's one of the few characters that actually has any sort of characterization because you get the little backstory about his family. And I do like that they remembered that the British and the Spanish during this time were at war. So you had this like trifecta of pirates. Pirates would like raid the British and of course raid the Spanish because they just took loot, but the Spanish and the British were at war, so they would raid each other, and of course they both hated the pirates. So um, that was pretty cool. And that so a lot of times what I'm saying is that the various nations acted like pirates against each other, and this was a case here where Francis Drake essentially he's working for the crown, but it's like a Spanish ship. Let's attack it and raid it, and like steal all of its gold. So like piracy was legal. It's one of those like great hypocrisies. It was like when the state did it, it was okay, but when
Right.
free men did it, it was bad. Anyone, by the way, just because this is on my top of my head, anyone who's into pirates or just wants to like explore it a little bit more, there's a fantastic television series that was originally on Stars.
Are you gonna say Black Sails?
Black Sails.
So I am one of those guys that am fascinated with pirates, and I started to watch it. Actually, found it really cool. I never finished it. I need to go.
Black Sails is fantastic. Now it's more on the serious side. It's not going to be like One Piece pirates. It's going to be more like Game of Thrones pirates. But
do not show this to your children, please.
It's not for children, but it's really well done, high budget, really impressive. Like every episode feels like you're watching a movie. Like it's really high quality, and it deals with the actual historical pirates. There's actually very historical characters like Blackbeard's in it. What's her name? Bonnie.
Calico Jack and Bonnie.
And Bonnie.
Yeah,
and they really try to make it. I don't want to say historically accurate, but like, yeah, it is like it feels like it's researched and everything. Yes, Ed, check it out, Black Sails. It's a really well done show.
The dad from Lost in Space is in it actually, and I had been wanting to see if he was in anything else, and so I saw him in that because he's like the main captain. Actually, RDV, the oldest brother from Umbrella Academy, is in it also.
That's where he got his start, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I can't see him without his gorilla arms.
Yeah, that was weird for me. But yeah, it was really good from what I saw of it. I really enjoyed it.
All right, so my turn. This was not my choice. I didn't have any books coming out this week, so we decided between Zach and RDV to pick some books, and this was the choice from RDV. I am a fan of Godzilla. I like Godzilla. I tend not to read Godzilla comics because, to me, Godzilla it feels like comics is not a good medium for Godzilla. Like it just the same problem I had with originally with Firepower is like Kung Fu. I love Kung Fu movies because I can see the Kung Fu. When you just draw a dude and it's still frame, it's not the same. So I was a little apprehensive because I was like, I do like Godzilla. The idea of Godzilla being around in like pirate era, I don't see how that works. But RDB's been enjoying it. Every issue that's come out. I did like the covers to the books. It's got a really
there were some nice covers.
it's got a really kind of painterly style that just catches
So
my
the
eye.
Tyler Kirkman cover is the Godzilla with the bat, so that's what caught my eye. I was like, dang it, you know. But this is the main interior artist, which you know what you're getting.
Yeah. And his art for the first issue was my favorite. So when I opened up the book, issue 1, this page here is the same for every issue, and I opened it, I was like, "Oh, this is pretty good. Like I like these illustrations of these pirate ships and Godzilla." I was like, "Oh, this I was not expecting an IDW book about to have such quality art." Frank
Yep.
Thierry, someone I've heard of as a writer, so I was like, "All right, let me get in." And you get in the story about this pirate who is slightly inspired by Jack Sparrow, but he's not nearly as off the wall as Jack Sparrow,
No.
which I
Yeah, right.
appreciated. Um, you get this, dialogue between him, the captain on the left, and then the main guardman here on the right. And the series opens up where he's captured and he's talking, and everything you said is true. Like he's got to tell the story. He's trying to bide time. You're not sure if his tale is true or not. And I really like that aspect as well, where I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if this is even like a true story. Maybe it's just him making stuff up. And that would explain like why Godzilla doesn't fit. Because I talked to RDV about this before. I was like,
Yeah.
Godzilla is a story about how the nuclear weapons kind of like awaken. Like he wasn't around in Pirate Era. Plus, Godzilla was in Japan. I don't think he was in the Caribbean. But whatever. like, um, so one thing I did appreciate is the writing of this book. It's not the most serious writing, but it's very comic book. As I was reading it, I thought to myself, I was like, you know what? If I had a young kid, not terribly young, but maybe 6, 7, 8 years old or whatever, this would be the kind of comic I might read to them before bed. This is like a tall story. It's not overly like violent or anything about pirates. It's not taking itself too seriously, but not being so completely batshit crazy. So I was like, yeah, I can dig this. It may not be 100% like what I would go purchase for myself, but I can definitely see why a lot of people would like it.
Dad, tell me about the giant lobster cutting the guy in half and eating
Yeah,
him.
yeah, that might be a little bit. Um, Now I did appreciate also because I was like Godzilla versus pirates. I'm like, man, God, modern military can't stand against Godzilla. Like, what are pirates gonna do? But true enough, like that's the case here. Like when Godzilla
Yeah.
does make his appearance in the previous issue, he wipes out the entire Spanish Armada, and he doesn't even blink. Like, it's. But the point here, I think, is really the story about the pirates, which is good because Pirates versus Godzilla just makes no sense. That's what I was imagining going in, and it would have been stupid. It doesn't do that. It's really about a story about this pirate and this gold and this conspiracy, which I'm way more into. Except that I'm like, well, Godzilla's kind of taking a back seat. Like, it's called Godzilla. The story itself is fine, and I realize you kind of have to do that because if it was just pirates at Monster Island, people wouldn't be as interested in buying it. So, but realize like what you're getting into here is really a more fantasy tall tale of these pirates' adventures.
I
It
feel like it might
does
be a world. It
it
might be a
does
world building.
it does fit in really well with not continuity obviously, but just it's stylistically of Pirates of the Caribbean. If you enjoyed the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, regardless of Jack Sparrow or not or anything, but just the overall like that feel, that sort of like high adventure, not quite reality. Um, Obviously we have Pirates of the Caribbean had all sorts of mythical creatures and things. This book does that. This feels like a kind of a Pirates of the Caribbean, and Godzilla just happens as a guest star in it. So it's what I'm trying to say is it was fun. I found myself turning the page and caring about what happened next. Zach hit the nail on the head too about there's not a lot of characterization. You don't get into these people and latch onto them. But I believe that's by design. This is the type of story where it's like, let me tell you this tall tale, Arabian Nights style type of thing. So it's really about the plot. It's about what happened next. And so in those types of stories, you're not building on character. It's really about, and then what happened. Um,
I,
and
I wouldn't be surprised though.
The story does that quite well, in my opinion. Um, like I said, you do care about this Blanco character because you get this story about how his family basically drowned. He was waiting in the New World, and Francis Drake, because he's an asshole, just kills him. Not intentionally. He was trying to get the gold or whatever, the Spanish ship, but uh, this guy doesn't care, and so he's one of he's like the opposite of Francis Drake. He's like the Spanish version. He's this badass. Everyone knows who he is. He hasn't actually done anything yet except watch. But the pirates, I do like the savage land nature of this. It was a
Sir
bit
Arthur Conan Doyle.
it was a bit kind of like, oh, this is really cool. Pirates on Savage Land. I could dig that. But then I'm like, but it's Godzilla. Like, I didn't buy this book because of Pirates versus Giant Bats. I bought it because of Godzilla. Why I didn't buy it. But you know what I'm saying? I'm putting myself in the shoes of a comic buyer. But still, that's just expectations, not actually reality. Everything was kind of fun. Um, I did think to myself literally when I saw this, I was like Jordan Peterson, so that's why I made the joke because I was like giant
That
lobster.
that is
Um,
actually an established Godzilla monster. Also,
yeah, I mean they
just
gave
in
him a
case
name, so I
anyone was
figured
wondering.
Ebira.
I look Ibira, the giant lobster.
Now there's a few times where Frank Thierry's lack of knowledge of history and different things kind of shows through. Most people aren't going to notice, but I'm a little anal retentive, so I do. And then it makes a joke about I tend to prefer lobster grill with a touch of lemon and butter. I my head canon was like shenanigans, no pirates. Lobster didn't even become a thing until recently modern era. Lobster used to be considered like the insect of the sea. It only when it became a delicacy that people really start eating it. I also didn't like this part here where he's narrating and he's like, throughout history, these monsters called kaiju by some be appearing all over the world. And I'm like, this is in the 1500s is when this story takes place. I don't even think the Dutch had reached Japan until like the 1600s. I have to check the dates on when the Dutch discovered Japan. So this idea that this random pirate
Well,
guy knows all about Japanese lore, I was like,
well, no.
eh.
Here's the thing though. He talked about the secret society, and who knows? I see he wasn't a part of the secret society or knew about them, came across them, and like I said, they have books. They keep ledgers. You know, so like I said, it is possible, but also he could be just just telling tall tales.
The fact that he used the word kaiju. If he would have just been said throughout the history, these monsters
That's
had been
now
appearing all over the world, it wouldn't have thrown me off. But when he used the word kaiju, I'm like, kaiju's only known by modern audiences since
yes, yeah.
1960s when Godzilla first came out, and they used like, but Japan, this guy would have not even known about Japan. He would not even know any Japanese word. Anyways, this is me being anal. I'm admitting that. So if that sort of thing
What?
doesn't phase you, so be it.
Well, how do you
Um,
know it's especially the 1500s at St. Francis Drake? I think
no,
it's
no,
1600s.
1300s was. It goes
Oh,
between the 1300s and the 1500s.
okay.
Um, anyways, so yeah, this story is in the 15. So they say in issue 1, but I also thought it was a little weird that Godzilla has this gigantic cave. Uh, but
Well,
whatever.
it's because Kong hasn't shown up yet to come back home.
And Kong won't because Kong is a different license, so I would not expect to see him in the book.
He's a
Um,
dynamite right now.
but overall, this is a fun book. I was really pleasantly surprised at the quality of the art. I really thought the coloring was well done as well, which I don't expect on lesser,
Yeah,
titles.
Especially IDW. Especially
Yeah, like
IDW. Yeah.
so
I
I do believe IDW, credits to the editor of this book, put together a quality product. And if you are a Godzilla fan, or if you are a Pirates of the Caribbean fan, I think this book would be up your alley. It'd be worth checking out.
I would really hope that this would be like a world building. Like this is the first thing. Like they showed Ghidorah, they showed Mothra. So they're gonna like at the end of this book, they're gonna show you that the monsters are still in the present, and now it's like now they're coming out, or explain where they've gone.
Maybe. I'm kind of hoping that this is all fictional, but we'll see. Um,
I hope they all say kaiju from now on. Kaiju, kaiju,
yeah, dude.
kaiju.
Just
Yeah, I
that
know.
some of those things, it's a record scratch moment. It takes me out of the immersion.
Well, you gotta realize that what you think is history is no longer that history. It's been changed many times since you've gone to high school.
I hate
Okay.
that. That just gave me an aneurysm.
Um, yeah. So here's one of the alternate, or that's actually the next cover, I guess. There's something about this art. I like the way it's colored. Um, it
It
just,
reminds me of the Amanda show where she didn't bring out the dancing lobsters. If anyone's young enough to remember that.
I remember seeing
Or
the
old
show,
enough, rather.
but not watching it.
there's the
I
Kirkham
had a
cover,
crush on. Yeah,
which is
that is a sweet cover.
which
I
is
Yeah,
like that
fine.
one.
that's the
It's
one I picked
fine.
up.
And then the Cthulhu cover, um, which I'm a fan of Cthulhu stuff and Vikings. This makes me kind of wonder if they're planning on doing a Cthulhu book with Vikings, kind of like as a spin-off of this, like
That would be pretty
Vikings
fun.
versus Cthulhu. I would actually be kind of curious, but um, well, that's a cool cover art there. The Godzilla upending an aircraft carrier. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, had a lot of fun. This cover's terrible. It's a different book. Um, I would recommend. I'm definitely curious to read the next issue. It's fun. It
Yeah.
is good, just kind of lighthearted, fun. And other than, like I said, part of the reason I critique those things that I did, Venkman, is because if that's the worst that I can critique, I think people should take away that the book is solid. Like if there's no egregious, like the dialogue in the book is actually pretty well done. The characters don't speak in ways like like I have that problem where characters talk like modern people, but they're in like the 1500s. There's none of that there. The pirate talks like how you'd
Yeah.
expect a pirate to talk. The captain of the guard talks like they all feel, the and
They're from
it
that
helps the
era.
immersion. It helps you feel like, oh, okay. So well done, IDW.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest when it comes to Godzilla, especially in comic book form. Like, I really don't watch the old Godzillas. I watched my first Godzilla film was the Matthew Broderick film.
Ugh.
Oh God, you picked the worst one.
I actually picked the best one.
That's the
It's not
worst
bad. Actually, as a guilty
movie.
pleasure movie, that is on my list. It
The
is on my
reason
short
I
list.
say it's the best one because it's Matthew Broderick. Matthew Broderick's awesome.
Eh,
It
the
doesn't
French
matter
guy
how
was better
awesome
than
Matthew
Matthew.
Broderick is. His character was written stupid. That movie, you insulted my
It was
intelligence.
better
That
than a
movie
guy
was.
in a rubber suit. I'm sorry, where he jumps and spins.
Wait! Hold on. You who give me grief over not liking the old Conan movies is saying that you don't like the old Godzilla movies.
Well, Conan the Barbarian is a masterpiece compared to Godzilla's is in a suit and guys looking
Oh
up saying
my
Godzilla.
God! Oh my God!
Well, yeah, tokusatsu stuff is kind of silly, but the point of watching those movies was the silliness. Like you
Yes.
watch it because it's cornball and
To make
it's.
fun of Asian, you're making fun of Asian culture. That's the whole point. Racist.
But the first Godzilla actually wasn't silly. If you ever watch the original, I think it's called just Gojira.
Yeah,
Um,
Gojira. Yeah.
that movie is actually very serious, and it's like a sci-fi film. It's just people were just loving the fact of a giant dude in a lizard suit trashing cities and fighting monsters. Like so it kind of changed. The original Godzilla is like original TMNT, black and
Yeah,
white comic, and then the rest became like the Nickelodeon cartoon.
I remember watching one. It might have been Godzilla 3, or it was the one. The main focus was like this kid who lived in this building. I forgot what it was, the '80s one. Whatever one came out in the '80s, there was a one. I'll have to look it up again. But I watched and I was just like, It's like I don't get the obsession with it, but people do love it. It's like I guess I like the martial arts movies for the bad of the '70s ones, the Toei Corporation ones. I can see people can like the Godzilla, but I mean,
Bruce Lee can't fight Godzilla, man.
Yeah.
Atomic breath.
well, I
All
wasn't I wasn't talking about Bruce Lee. I was watching Sonny Chiba.
Well, I don't care who your martial artist is. You're not gonna beat Godzilla with a karate chop to the foot.
No, bro. Let's go with the Nads.
All right. Speaking of Nads, the next book
That's
was our boy Zach's pick for the week, and it was Justice
Yo!
Society of America, issue 6.
Yeah.
I did not read any of the previous issues. I take it, RDV, you are reading the whole series?
Yeah, are you 13 and older?
Maybe.
13 plus. Funny.
Maybe.
People pay attention to those.
So, Zach, why don't you give us the synopsis for Justice Society, and we'll follow along, and then we'll
All
comment at the
right.
end.
All right. So this is so like Ash said, this is issue number 6 of Jeff Johns on his return to the Justice Society of America. And this is actually, I told Ash this last week. And now I'm even more convinced. I think this is a good jumping on spot if you haven't been reading it already. I think that you can jump onto this and get a grasp of the situation fairly quickly. What's happened is I also like this first page. This takes me back to like pre-New 52 DC. You've got this narration going on. This is Stargirl talking. She's kind of like through the person whose eyes we see most of the story through. She's talking about how days can be full of hope, and all we see all these different glimpses of other DC heroes. All of these are actually really good books that you could pick up right now. But then we get the splash page here. This is Stargirl, and all the characters around her are from the miniseries that Jeff Johns and Todd Knock did. It's not Justice Society. It was kind of like Justice Society adjacent. It was called Stargirl and the Lost Children. Which basically, the short version, she goes and she finds all of these sidekicks from the golden age of comics that were removed from time and nobody remembered them. So now she's brought them back into the main timeline, and they're they're getting reintegrated, I guess, into this modern DC era, this dawn of DC era.
And not all of them adjust.
But so you've got so right there, I mean, you've got so you see here you're at the JSA headquarters, and they're all like the senior members, Mr. Terrific, Alan Scott, Jay Garrick, of course, and they're all trying to figure out what to do with all these kids. Stargirl shows up. She's accompanied by Robot Hour Man, who was in that other miniseries, and then
Is
Judy Garrick, who is Jay Garrick's daughter, that up till now he had forgotten existed. He and his wife had been living under the assumption they could never have any kids.
So I guess here real quickly, for those who watched the Stargirl show, Courtney was much younger back, in that she was high school age. You see Jakeem there is kind of looking kind of old too. We also have Beth, and then we have Yolanda. Yolanda's a gender. So for those who are just jumping on, don't know who those characters are. Seeing them older is really weird to me.
There are a lot. Well, I mean, Beth and Yolanda were made back in the 80s, so that kind of tracks it.
I did not know that. I didn't. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So anyway.
Wow.
So Jay sees his daughter, and I think this is one of the stronger, definitely happier emotional beats of the story. He remembers his daughter. There's this embrace, and then they take off. They start talking, and they're moving at super speed, and we don't really see a whole lot of them throughout the rest of the book. But really, really cool. We kind of see this little kind of a quick version of an origin story of what happened with Judy and how she got powers, and then she vanished from the timeline, and Jay just forgot about her.
Yeah, but also Courtney says they talk so dang fast we can't understand what they're saying.
So then we go to that's the happy reunion. Then we go to another father-daughter. I didn't interrupt you with Godzilla. So we have Huntress, who is kind of the main focus, the main character of the first 5 issues, with her getting displaced from time. We have her getting introduced or integrated into this timeline, and of course this is Batman and Catwoman's daughter. So she's being introduced. She's here in New York City. Batman is, she broke the first rule of time travel, which was she intervened in Bruce's life and saved his life, but now she's disrupted the timeline. So now Bruce knows he has a daughter. He's paying for her to have a penthouse in New York City, and there's kind of this disgruntled, this like they're not getting along. They're the opposite of the Flash and his daughter. They're just kind of like, their walls are up. He's Bruce, so obviously he's not going to show emotion. I do have a side note on the art. I look for this stuff since reading Sean Gordon Murphy's Batman books, but I like how behind Bruce Wayne there's the Batman silhouette, and then if you go back to the previous page, there's Helena Wayne looking out the window, and her reflection is the Huntress outfit. So I did like that little homage there to the alter egos. So yeah, we see there's some stonewalling going up by both parties. There's a little quip in here about how there's about to be this Batman Catwoman Gotham war, which I don't know anyone who's excited to read that, but it kind of just says, hey, this is all connected, it's all in the same timeline, which I do like that. Canon, even if the events are bad, I do like that they kind of establish everything is all important, connected or whatever. So then from there we go back to the JSA headquarters, and they're looking over all of these sidekicks, and I really like this. It reminds me of a Justice League run where it's like all the main leaders, they're looking at the new recruits, new talent.
That was Justice League #1 for 2006.
That was the Ed Benez run with I think it was Brad Meltzer started, and then Wayne McDuffie took over. So yeah, they're going over all these sidekicks. You have Alan Scott, Mr. Terrific, and Robot Hourman, and these are all kids that got brought back to the present. And Judy is pretty much the only one that has like a happy reunion with a parent. All these other kids, like none of them have parents that are still alive or relatives, or it's really sad. So we go to Salem, who is this girl that was supposed to be the sidekick to the original Dr. Fate. And so with the new Dr. Fate, who is this younger kid, I think he's an actual doctor, but his name is Khalid. And so he's explaining that a lot of people have been Dr. Fate. There was Kent, there was Kent's wife, there was Hawk, Hawk from Hawk and Dove. He became Dr. Fate for a bit. So we find out with Salem, she's upset and distraught because the original Dr. Fate was supposed to help her break this curse that had been put on her when she was a kid. And the curse was that anyone that got close to her would die. And so now she's all bummed out because, she thinks she's never going to get that curse lifted because Kent died, and then, anyone else that tries to help her will die. So she's got her issues there. And I kind of like that because it's nice to give, these new characters. I like this focus on them. Jeff Johns is kind of giving them all their own personalities. I think he does pretty well with that, considering the brief moments that we get with them in this issue. We go next to the Human Bomb. I think her name is Cherry Bomb. Yeah, Cherry Bomb. And she's supposed to be the sidekick to the Human Bomb from the Freedom Fighters. So we see that she's kind of got this overload of energy and power. The quote unquote new Dr. Midnight. She's been Dr. Midnight for a while. But Beth Chapel, she's kind of like studying her, watching her powers. They're trying to figure out why she's overloading and has like this constant energy, whether that's good or bad. And then as she's going through this, we see one of my personal favorites, Wildcat, the original Wildcat, Ted Grant. He shows up, and we find out that the second Wildcat, Yolanda, missed her training, And I think they've referenced her a couple of times in the previous issues, but they still haven't moved forward. So I think they're saving that going forward with the title. But like they reference Eclipso. There's a little reference to Eclipso here. You see like the moon chart, and there's like a little Eclipso signal in there. So I think something's going on with Yolanda and Eclipso. But it's cool to see Ted Grant. Like I said, he's one of my favorites. I hadn't seen a whole lot of them so far, so that was really cool. And then we get this, which is I mean I thought this was an emotional kind of a gut wrenching kind of scene. So Stargirl has this sidekick, this girl, Ladybug, who if nobody is probably gonna know that there was this hero from way back in the Golden Age called the Red Bee, and he supposedly used this family's bee farm as a hideout of sorts. And so Ladybug here ended up becoming his sidekick. So she got brought back to the present, and we find out that her parents sold this farm that was used with the hideout. They're not around anymore. The Red Bee, I think, had a distant relative that wanted to meet her, but the girl's all upset because like her family's gone. They're not going to know what happened to her. They're not going to know she's alive. So it's really, really sad. But then she does find a little silver lining. This bee that was apparently a telekinetic bee that the Red Bee had as like a little pet sidekick. Apparently he's still alive, still around, and so he recognizes her. She recognizes him. And so I don't where that's gonna go. Who can say? And then these other guys, they get kind of minor glimpses. We have John Henry Irons, Steel, quote unquote, from the Golden Age. We find out that he's kind of distantly related or connected to Steel from Superman. He's like, yeah, he's Steel's grandfather's brother. So that was interesting. We see the Dynamite Kid. I think this is Damage that he's with. Grant Emerson, I think is his real name. They both have like explosive kinetic power, so that's kind of cool. We see Mr. Terrific here talking with the Mr. Terrific sidekick, Quiz Kid, and he's kind of like talking about his T-spheres and how he can make them better because he's a smarty.
Did you? Yeah, you skipped where you said. You ever think you call yourself TNT?
Yeah, I saw
That's
that.
kind of that's kind of cute.
Yeah, a little bit, a little cute. So we see some of them. Like most of them seem to be integrating really well. We do see this. I thought was kind of cool. Breen was actually talking about this last time I was on a stream with them. Helena and Power Girl, who were good friends, and I guess the older Justice Society run. Now we kind of see them back together again. Power Girl, of course, is not originally from the main Earth in DC. She's from Earth 2. And now Helena is here, and then Helena is talking about how in the future and the timeline she's from, the two of them formed a Justice Society that had some reformed supervillains and legacy villains. I know you don't like legacy characters, Ash, but I had to say it. So we see the two of them here talking about possibly reforming some of them earlier, maybe trying to do some good before something bad happens. And that's where we see the last page is their first idea of who to recruit, and that is Solomon Grundy. They're going to try to turn him and make him fight for the good guys. So overall, like I said, I think this is a pretty good jumping on point. It kind of, shows you where the team is right now. You got all these new young kids being introduced. So you're jumping on with them as they're integrated into the dawn of DC. The art style, I actually really liked it. I like this more than Mikkel Janin and Jerry Ordway, who were the two regular artists on the first 5 issues. Mikkel Janin kind of did like the current modern day stuff, and then Jerry Ordway did the past tense stuff. But I like this guy. I think he did really good. And overall, this is probably the first issue where, as I was reading through it, it felt like Jeff Johns' classic run. I hate to say classic because it wasn't that long ago. It was maybe like 20 years ago. But this guy's art style, the colors are bright and vibrant. The scene here with the Flash and his daughter, the lightning and it just, I think it works. It's really, really cool. And I just really enjoyed this overall. Something I like too, because the first 5 issues didn't have this. There's like this little introduction to who the JS. It's almost like a tagline. Like if you read an X-Men book, they're always gonna have something at the beginning of an X-Men book about how they're a team of mutants that protects a world that hates and fears them. Or the Avengers, they came together on a day like no other, something like that. So the Justice Society has like this little opening narration monologue where it's like, during the days of World War II, there was a team of mystery men that formed the first and greatest team. And so that was in most of Jeff Johns' original JSA books. And then this is the first issue of this relaunch title that I've seen that in. So that helps kind of set the tone and the vibe as well. So, but yeah, that is the overall synopsis and my thoughts on it. Like I said, I think this is the best issue that they've put out so far. I've been liking it up until now, but this is the first one I think that was like an A
So
issue.
so I want to say the whole thing with Judy and Jay, we were united together. This is kind of like Jeff Johns serving up a layup for Jeremy Adams to come with his miniseries and just get a nice dunk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, definitely. I think so.
Helena, this version of Helena Wayne, I never really cared for that version even back in the day. I was more of a Huntress Bertinelli. Not no. I was gonna say I didn't care what happened to Bertinelli's character. That was horrible for a 6-year-old. But overall, I guess say the fact that Courtney is basically leading this introduction is fun because I liked Courtney's run, her original series, and then it leads into her joining the JSA as a new member, and those first couple of issues is just focused about her and adapting to the team while also still being basically a part timer because she's in high school still.
Well, see, that's the cool thing about this is during like the original GSA run, she was like the junior member, and then
Now she's not.
They had a few more junior members join, so
Yeah.
she was like the senior classman. And now it's like she's got all these kids. She really like grew into this like almost leadership role. So that's really cool to see. As you and I know have been
Yeah.
reading through Stargirl.
It's kind of like it's kind of like Titans Academy, but it's JSA Academy.
Which means it's better than Titan. Which means it's miles better than Titans Academy.
The only thing, there's two things that, and then Breen had brought this up too. All these characters, Jeff Johns brought them in. Great. They're going to create a new young Justice Society. But as soon as Johns or Deceased decides they're done with them, the storylines, those characters are gone.
Okay, negative Nancy.
Well, I'm just saying I'm not saying I agree with them, but saying that's what I bring out. That's the elephant in the room. How those characters you're not going to see them again unless Jeff John brings them up.
I mean, that's happened before. I mean, Jeff Johns JSA before. I mean, more than half of the characters of his older JSA run got disappeared kind of until Jeff Johns came back. I mean,
so what I would like to see if Alina and Power Girl are gonna put the team together, I want Courtney involved. I want Courtney also training people too, being kind of like a bridge between like the old and the new.
All right. So
now for our
what did you what did you think my
notes.
thoughts were on the book?
I don't know. That's why I'm about to ask you. What were your thoughts on the book, Ash?
Do you have any guesses?
I'm gonna say you were bored.
I'm gonna say that might be a safe bet actually. I don't know because I know JSA isn't your thing with DC.
I'm unpredictable.
So I don't know. Actually, no, I am genuinely I'm curious and I do not know which way you're gonna go.
All right. Well, I'm not a. I'm gonna preface a couple things. I'm not a JSA fan. but it's not because it's not because I don't like JSA. It's because I've never really read much JSA. I actually like the concept of JSA very much. I dig the old Golden Age style characters. I like to see them presented in a modern format, but keeping sort of that Golden Age feel. I think Jeff Johns is adept at doing that, so I get very excited. I'm very much looking forward to actually just going back to that 20-year-old Justice Society run of his that you mentioned, and
It's a
going through it
great
someday.
run. It's a top 5 comic run.
I
of all
was
time.
very excited for a Justice Society book several years ago, and DC's been juggling it around and blah blah blah. By the time Justice Society finally came out, you know the story. I was just like done with DC, so I was like, well, I guess I miss out. So I jumped in on this issue on issue 6. I do not know what happened on issues 1 through 5, nor do I know what happened on that Stargirl series that Bankman was referencing. So I was a little bit lost on this book, just because I don't know some of that references, which is okay. Now, I like Michael Jannon's art. It's not my favorite, but I do like him. I like this cover quite a bit. But I want my money back because you do not get what's in this on this cover. I'm not talking about the art. You don't get Justice Society. This is not a Justice Society book. And they even admit it right here on the splash page. DC Comics proudly presents Young Justice Society Chapter 1, A New Dawn. They should have just called this book Young Justice Society, because that's what it is.
It says DC Comics proudly presents the Justice Society of America. It's all on the banner.
In
Young Justice Society. Yeah, you get
the title of the story arc.
you get Jay Garrick for a page and he disappears.
But you're kind of getting what you would be before, though, because it's Helena centric.
I don't know that.
Really?
Remember, I'm coming in as a comic fan, and I'm like, oh, okay, Justice Society. I'm gonna go buy a book. It's got these characters. Wrong. Whatever.
Yeah,
I'm telling you my feelings. You had your guys' chance to talk. It's now my chance.
I want you to, I'm listening.
So next thing.
Yeah.
Well, before I go to that, I'm gonna say I love Jeff Johns. If I ran DC Comics, first of all, I'd never let Jeff Johns go, and I'd be doing everything I can to try to get him back, not just as a freelance writer as he is now, because clearly he's wrote this book, but I mean as part of shaping DC Comics. Nobody currently in the business today, in my opinion, knows DC better or is better suited to shape the artistic and creative direction of DC Comics than Jeff Johns. No matter what. That being said, this book was not my cup of tea. Because as you guys
point out,
go ahead, point out something.
Can I say real quickly?
Mm-hmm.
In the very word bubbles right there, they tell you what happens in the Stargirl series. She tells you right there.
Yeah, they do briefly give you.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I really understand. I mean, that's a brief synopsis. Like it's. Yeah, I still
don't. They returned. They went to this island. They got these kids who were lost from time, brought them back to the world. That's all you really need to know.
Sure, but that doesn't mean I know who these kids are. Like I didn't know. I still don't know who this guy is.
John Henry.
They never say his name. They never say his name.
They do say his name is John.
No, they don't. They don't. He
no.
is right. They don't mention his name. In this
that's when they go show John Henry, it's or Steele and his daughter. She refers to him as John, and you learn that it's his grandfather's brother. Now, as far as what he was in the Ash is saying, as far as the very beginning of JSA, what he was supposed to be a sidekick or whatever. They don't tell you in this book. No.
So let me get back. So I am unabashedly anti-legacy characters. You've heard this a million times. Everyone makes fun of me on this. This book make me had an aneurysm with so much legacy spewing over the page. Now, actually, wasn't quite as bad as that. The only real problem I had with the legacy, well, I had two problems. Number one, we do not need another Flash. Don't need another Flash daughter. before I read the book, when I just kind of saw the page, I was like, oh look, it's shoot, I even forgot her name. What was the
Judy.
other?
Judy.
No, the other Flash, the
Wally? Barry.
no, the
No, we're
girl,
using Jesse Quick.
Jesse Quick. I was like, oh, Jesse Quick's in the book. That's interesting. Nope. There's another Flash daughter.
Jesse Quick is the
Judy.
blonde. She
Judy.
wasn't the Flash's daughter. She was Johnny Quick's daughter.
Yeah, Liberty Bell.
Liberty Bell and Johnny Quick, yeah.
Whatever.
That's okay.
She's a Flash daughter.
There-
They're all
she-
Flashes.
She's not. Johnny Quick wasn't a Flash.
No,
Her
no,
name was Johnny
they-
Quick.
No, they were nowhere. They're not related to anything to Jay or any of them.
Yeah, they're completely different. They're
Yeah.
set aside from the Flash.
Seven Soldiers of Victory.
Except Jesse Quick was like in Flash books a lot. I know during
Mark
the
Waid, yes, and he was gonna try to get her to replace him in case he died, but then it was all a plot to
Ooh.
get Impulse to basically to step up.
All right, but we're
Another
interrupting.
Flash.
Sorry.
So
Yes.
sometimes other Flashes don't take the name Flash, which is really weird because there's like 3 actual Flashes that are Flash, but then there's other Flashes that like I'm gonna call myself Impulse, which I'm like, at least props to you have a different name, but whatever. There's just too many freaking Flashes, so I was immediately just rolling my eyes like, oh my goodness.
Exactly.
And it's tough
Barry
because
should
I
never
can't
existed.
get. The problem is I can't get into the emotion of the story that Jeff Johns is trying to tell here because I have that hang up. And part of that hang up is real because there's I can't even keep track of how many Flashes there are. There's a ton. Then the second one I even have more of a problem with is Batman Catwoman's daughter. No, dumb. I accept Damian. Batman and Catwoman having an adult daughter. Stupid. I hate it. To the very fiber of my being. But it is there. It is in the comics. Yay.
She's not a new character though.
She is from an alternate Earth. Yeah, she's been around for.
She was in the 70s.
Was she pre-Crisis
Uh-huh.
on Infinite Earths? I think?
Pre-Crisis, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dumb characters from the 70s that need to stay buried. So
Like Barry Allen, Flash, because we already had Jay.
That's fair.
no, that's not even the same thing. So but regardless, I do think Barry should have stayed dead.
But his name's called Flash.
Mm-hmm.
So there should only be Jay. Get rid of all of them. It doesn't have just Jay.
That would be correct if DC didn't reinvent itself and reinvent these characters, and the Golden Age really should even have a link to the Silver Age characters. But that's not the point.
That's Jeff Johns.
So I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep track of what my point is because I keep getting interrupted.
Legacies.
So then we get to here, and I could care less about store brand Dr. Fate. I just have no interest. I'm like, I don't know who this new kid Dr. Fate is. I don't care about this witch girl because she's written kind of like a bitch, which I get that's the point. Jeff Johns, like, she can't have people close to her. She's got issues. Jeff Johns is not a bad writer, and this book is not poorly written. My problem that I had is that it's written about things that I just don't care about. And here we go again. It's like, oh, look, this is Human Bomb's sidekick. Well, Human Bomb's not even a major character. And now I'm going to care about his sidekick who has almost the same powers. And it's like, oh, great. And now here's another legacy character. Oh, and then here's an original character who's been replaced by a legacy character. And then we get to this. And I'm like, I'm sorry for any Ladybug fans that are out there, but I don't know why anyone's pretending like that this should be a character that should exist. There's a reason these characters have been left in the shadows for so long because they're failed characters. This is sad. And again, what Zach said, this is an emotional moment. I don't disagree, but I can't get into it because I'm already thinking about how I don't want this character to exist in the DC continuity. I can't get into it. Now, part of that might be also that I didn't follow the 12 issues or however many that preceded this in the storyline, so I'm not as emotionally invested. Although I am curious about the bee.
Yeah,
um,
the B part intrigued me.
then I get over to here, and here's a character that's never named. He's never called John. So, well, actually, no, that's right. I guess it did. I missed it right here.
I saw that. Yeah, I missed that too.
So I apologize. I I don't remember reading that. Um, but still, so he's named John. But isn't this guy named John as well?
Yeah, there's two Johns.
So they're
John
both
Henry
John.
Iron.
So I'm now confused as I'm like, is doesn't this guy look like this when he's not all in the armor like this? Like, I
Wasn't
don't.
John Henry the guy who worked on the railroad?
Yes, that's kind of how this character has been based off of. Is really cliche.
Yes.
Like, look, it's a
There
black
you
dude with
go.
a hammer. Which has always been kind of cringe. I don't like the fact that he's got daughter. Now we got a third. It's like, I don't know who this Nazi version character is. They don't
Looks
ever
like
say.
Baron Blitzkrieg. Looks like Baron Blitzkrieg.
This
Well, I was gonna
character
say
down
this.
here, you guys knew his
Jeff
name.
Johns,
He's
WizKid.
WizKid.
Jeff Johns is being forced to bring in other characters like this, like John
He's
Henry's
not.
daughter.
Jeff Johns
He
is not forced to do any of this.
He created these new characters.
No, not new characters. I'm talking about Steele's daughter, having her with the stupid shirt on, all that crap on. Like there's certain like he has to connect it to. That's like he connected to the Gotham War and all stuff. Where Helena makes a joke, it's like, well, you better get back to Gotham. You and Mom are one for one hell of a fight.
So one of my problems, and I've had this problem since I can remember being a fan of comics, is DC seemingly doesn't know how to do characters that aren't some sort of recreation of the Big Seven. I have this problem where it's like every character is either a Batman, a Superman, a Flash, a Green Lantern, or an Aquaman. Like, and here again, so we have the Batman archetype with sitting next to the Superman archetype. Guess what? They formed a Justice Society team. Oh, you mean kind of like Batman and Superman did Justice League? It's like that. It's just echoes over and over. You guys mentioned how there was a Titans Academy. Well, Titans did the same thing, right? Titans had the Batman archetype, the Superman archetype, blah blah blah, and it's like, oh, and then there's a Young Justice, and what do? The same exact archetypes. So I know that I'm a hyperbolic, and I'm being made fun of about being like going full Dan Didio. I can actually handle Legacy, but I get really overreacting to it because it's so overdone. It and DC just is like vomiting Legacy characters out, and it's like, oh, you think we're done? Nope. And it's like I if we go forward 20 years from now, there's going to be twice as many of all of these characters. We're going to have so many that none of these characters are going to matter because there's going to be 15 different Supermans, 20 different Wonder Woman, 30 different Flashes, ungodly, uncountable numbers of Green Lanterns. That it's just like any one that you're a fan of won't matter because chances are they're not going to get any sort of page time. And if you love them, I argue that you probably don't because, or at least you don't love them as much as you really say you do because you're arguing for an existence where they're swallowed up by all these other characters that are essentially clones of them. Again, this is just me ranting on it. The book's not terrible. It's just not what it advertises itself, in my opinion. When I look at the cover, I'm like, cool, I want to get a Justice Society book. I want to see a story of, old Flash and Green Lantern and Dr. Fate and I don't know what Mr. Terrific's doing there, but okay. And then I didn't. I got these weirdo characters that I just did not like.
So if you go back, that's not the original Dr. Fate. That's the one you don't like.
I know.
On the cover. So
I know.
So everyone you see on the cover does appear on there in the book.
They make an appearance. They stand in the background. Like that's not the same.
They've been doing that since issue 1.
Okay.
It's been a Lena Wayne book going through
So
time.
if that's the case, then I thought this was a jumping on point. If I had 6
Yeah.
issues of this, like multiply everything that I said times 6. Um, that
This is what I say. As I always argue, do never jump in the middle of a book. I don't care what year or where you're
oh, it has
born.
nothing to
When
do
you
with
start
jumping
reading,
in the middle of the book.
because
It,
I said I always start from the beginning so I can read through, because there's always gonna be stuff you're gonna read. It's not gonna make sense. That someone's not gonna explain all of it.
no,
You
the
know,
stuff not making sense is not the problem that I have. It's just I don't care about these characters. Um,
that's
you're
because they're
telling me
legacy
a story.
characters.
It's not even that they're legacy character. Imagine if there was a Spider-Man movie and it looked all great, and then you went and saw it, Venkman, and it was about Spider-Boy, and like Peter Parker was in like 5 minutes of it. You'd feel like the rug was pulled out from you, and you'd hate it. That's how I feel when I read this book. I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's good or not. It's not what I thought I was gonna get, and it's about these characters that I don't care about, and I don't care to know about them. If anyone else does, that's fine. I'm not telling anyone else how to feel.
Well,
This is just
from the
my
very
opinion.
first book, for the very first book, it was advertised as being a Lena Wayne story, not being a Justice Society. It's just that there's Justice Society characters involved.
Where is it advertised that this is a Helena story?
It's not advertised as a
In,
Helena.
Yeah,
What happened is
in issue
during
one,
that okay, no. During the this happened during the original JSA run too.
yeah.
Different story arcs will put different members in the front. So you might have a story maybe that focuses more on Flash, or maybe it focuses more on Green Lantern and his kids. So
sure.
Helena Wayne just happened to be like the spotlight of the first 5 issues, because this is how she gets introduced or integrated into the main DC world, so it makes sense to. Now it's taking a different
like
turn. Now it's like
So
Helena.
in this book, she's on 2 pages, and she's a
She's
total
on 2 pages.
bitch. It's like, and I'm like, even if this is about her, I hate her. Well, I hate her anyway. She's not just a legacy character. She's an awful legacy character. She's the kind of legacy character that I just want to see. Wally West is a legacy character that I go, okay, I don't really think you should have to exist, but you do. Barry Allen was dead for 15 years. It's established. Let's go ahead. Let's accept Wally West. You paid your dues. You were already Kid Flash before. Okay, fine. This is the opposite extreme of that. She is just a character that's shoehorned in. I can't imagine real Batman fans really want this character. Like for Batman now to have an adult daughter with Catwoman. Like just okay, if you're gonna do that, like just have Batman and Catwoman go get married, ride off into the sunset, retire, and I guess we'll have someone else fill in as Batman. Like that we want legacy characters. Oh, we already have another Batman. We'll just make him uh, as Batman. But I don't think anyone actually wants that as much as might be shaking their head at me for hating legacy characters, because that would be dumb. We all know that Bruce Wayne is the best Batman. That's what
Well,
we want to see.
the same people that liked their when back pre-crisis are the same people who are gonna be buying this book because they like the character. Eventually she'll go away again. DC will change.
I don't think
Another
anyone's
crisis
buying this
event.
book because they like Helena Wayne. I can't imagine that's true.
People are mainly. I think people are buying the book because it's Jeff John's name and
Yes.
it's just the Society of
Yes.
America.
Yes, exactly. What you said about Jeff Johns jumps off this book, it's dead. This Jeff
Unless they
Johns
get
is
somebody good
carrying
like
this.
Venditti or something. If they got
Possibly.
Venditti, yeah,
Possibly. But
or
what my
Jeremy
thing
Adams.
is honestly, Jeff Johns' name's carrying this book, but I think when I see Justice Society of America, I want to read Justice Society of America. It's the same thing with X-Men. When I see X-Men on the title, I don't want to read this Krakoan bullshit. I don't know what the hell this is. I look at it and go, what the hell? This is garbage. I want to read actual X-Men. Professor X, and with the
That's how I
School
felt
of
when I read
Gifted Learning. Like it's
I was reading some of the Uncanny X-Men, and it's only focused on certain members, and the rest were just kind of like ignored for a while, and then they switched. So,
no, I'm
but
okay with that. I'm not. That's not what's happening here. This is not. It'd be like opening an X-Men book and you read all about a story about the Morlocks. Like I was buying X-Men. What the hell's going
you
on?
mean Storm of the Morlocks? Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't happen. Like that's not. anyways, that's my opinion on the book. I
Lena
think
Wayne
Jeff
goes
Johns.
back to 1977 in All-Star Comics. She is the daughter of Batman and Catwoman, who are both dead on her world. That was the original concept, says Breen.
Yeah, I don't disagree that she was created.
Yeah.
Like that's not the point. Like just because someone makes something doesn't automatically make it worthwhile. Most characters are bad. Stan Lee talked about for every 100 characters he created, only one of them stuck. And you have to leave stuff on the cutting room floor. DC doesn't
Well,
seem to like to leave stuff on the cutting room floor, so we're flooded with all these characters. And then people who disagree with my take just be like, "Oh, well, chill out, Ash. You shouldn't feel like that." And it's like, okay, fine. But when you got thousands of these characters running around and none of them ever get the spotlight and everything, it's just you're gonna wonder why the DC universe has no continuity and everything's all jumbled and doesn't make sense, and the characters don't feel like themselves because no one can keep track of who these characters are. And then people like me who are like, I want to read an actual Justice Society, but I can't get it because now these characters are the Justice Society, apparently.
it's not that the reason why DC has a problem is. DC has a problem is because the writers they have are not writers. The ones that what is that? No. Apart from Johns and Viditti's not even around anymore. He's gone. I don't know where he's doing, but I said
Superman
the,
78 volume 2.
so when Johns and it said and all these writers always going back, a lot of those writers are pretty much gone. Josh is coming back, and he's trying to do this in a world where DC doesn't really make any sense anymore because a lot of the writers who knew how to write are no longer writing or allowed to write at DC anymore. So it's not gonna. I can see why you don't care about some of the current stuff, and that's. But as far as these characters, as far as the JSA and Huntress and Helena, these characters do. I like them.
Okay.
I don't mind that she's from Earth 2, but the thing is that she's not going to stick around. I don't think it's going to be like it was in 252. They had Helena Wayne came around. She stuck for a while, and then she left. She went back to her own world. They're gonna fix it. She's gonna have her own world go back, or she might stick around. Who knows? Have another crisis, and then Helena Bertinelli's back, or something like I don't know.
So if she's a
But
good character and people like her, she'll stick around. And if she's not a good character and people don't like her, she'll go away, which will be my point all along that she shouldn't just be here in the first place because she already failed. I don't see anyone really wanting her to be here. But if I'm proven wrong and she becomes this fan favorite and everyone, then so be it. I'll be wrong. Breen says Ash doesn't like Helena, so she needs to go. I would say I don't like Helena, so I would want her to go. But there's a difference between characters that approve themselves. I don't necessarily like Nightwing, but I recognize that Nightwing has a place in the DC lore and continuity, and it's a beloved character. And so I don't think characters should just go because they're not my favorite. That's totally fine. But I don't see this character. This character hasn't earned anything. If anything, it's been a proven failure. And I think her existence isn't just being a bad character, but it also drastically affects the biggest character in DC Comics. It was Batman.
Breen says she's been around for 46 years. I think she's made it by now.
No. She was created 46 years ago. That doesn't say.
And has been around since for 46 years.
Every character that's created has been around. That's like saying the original Human Torch has been around for 80 years, so it's a standout character. No, the character's a failed character. No one wants to see the character, doesn't it? But it's been around since. No, just of course, if you've created the character and then you put it on a shelf and never talk about her, she's not actually around. She's not selling books. No one's crying out for her. Now I know Eric's got a heart for the past and he loves all the classic old school stuff and he probably gets giddy when he sees these old characters because that's in his time period. But I think the points that I make there's a point to them, whether you agree with them or not. Like you don't have to.
Just like our points, you don't have to agree with us either.
But here's the thing: you're not getting a Justice Society book. All these Justice Society characters you're not getting because Jeff Johns writing these characters
reading
instead.
A Justice Society book, you're not getting your version of Justice Society that you want. That's all.
No, I'm saying you're not getting the classic Justice Society. If you're a fan of the classic Justice Society stuff, you're not getting it. just like I can't get classic X-Men because it's been replaced. And
So
so the
you're
fans of the
talking about
new Krakoan X-Men might be like, I'm happy as a cat. I love all this stuff. And I'm like, that's cool. But you're realizing that the classic stuff has now been killed because of it. And that's what
Okay, so
legacy
first,
characters do. They kill the old stuff because there's not room for
Let
everything.
Zach speak. Let
it's
Zach
okay.
speak.
You interrupt all the time. It's okay. So you talk about all right. So the thing about classic Justice Society. So we talked. I mentioned several times Jeff Johns' earlier run. That's not even the entire classic roster. Like there are classic members, but
Oops. I did not cancel Zach. My Discord crashed. I don't think they can hear me because Discord crashed and they're on Discord. So stand by, please, while I reboot the Discord. And then we'll get, if I can click on the right icon and not be a total boomer. It takes a moment. And I can't even tell them because they can't hear me. So, and by the way, while this is rebooting, I'll just take a moment. So, just to say, I totally understand you guys may not agree with me. That's fine. Like, I guess the part of the idea to have a show is to have differing thoughts of opinions so that you have differing thoughts of opinions so that you can take a different side. I think if we all just agreed with each other, it'd be boring. So maybe someone likes my point. Maybe I'm alone on an island. I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead now and unmute Zach so that he can talk.
no,
Go ahead, Zach.
No, you should know that you cut out. The stream ended.
I understand. I
Are
understand.
we still here?
Let me now explain to you guys what happened. Go ahead. I refixed everything. So finish what you were saying. I apologize. It was technical difficulties.
Is that what happened?
No. I brought you on. All right.
Confused.
Yes.
His Discord crashed.
Okay.
Discord crashed, and I was talking while I was rebooting it, and then rather than having you just interrupt me, I brought you back muted so I could finish what I was saying. Then I unmuted you, but rather than rolling with the punches, you made me explain all this.
I got
I apologize, Zach, and I apologize to you, dear listeners.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you could do that. If I knew you could mute other people, I would have done that to Vinkman way earlier. Just kidding, Vinkman. No, what I was saying earlier, and it wasn't like a huge thing. I was just gonna say, during John's earlier run, what happened was during the JSA, you would have not the entire classic team, but you would have like a few surviving members, and then the whole theme of the run was how they mentored in like the new generation, the young generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have, I think if you take that away, like if you weren't having all these new young characters coming in, I think that takes away an important flavor that Jeff Johns brought with his earlier run. And so I think he's trying to like rejuvenate and bring back that feeling, that mentorship kind of.
Sure.
I think that's the case to be made for these new characters.
Well, and
like the idea of the legacy characters, or
here's the thing though. You can do that without legacy characters. That was actually something Chris Claremont was very famous for. He brought in, and X-Men was like one of the first books that did the sort of like rotating roster and evolving. But he didn't just bring in like, here's a new version of Wolverine. Oh look, here's Colossus Jr. Like he didn't.
Can't hear anybody but you, Ash.
You can't hear anyone?
Yeah, I think Maranya said that she can't
Oh.
hear me or Vinkman.
Stop.
He
Apologize.
says he can
Stop.
barely hear.
Hold on. They can't hear you. They can't hear us. Let me keep talking. I appreciate letting me know. I'm gonna check the settings here to make sure you guys are set.
Can I raise anything on my end?
No, it's nothing about you. It's just me. You guys. So I'm collecting audio through the Discord, and I think when I rebooted and brought you back,
It still shows your stream. You're sharing the comic, but the comic on our end, you closed that stream. So
apologize, dear listeners. Trying to figure out why it's not capturing audio.
it's capturing the comic book. So
Let me reboot my mic.
They can't hear us anymore. Let's go to bed, Zach. Good night, guys.
I got that coffee in me now. I don't know if I'm going to be going to bed anytime soon.
Drink some water. Just pee right out.
Well, you pee coffee out.
The
All right.
caffeine.
I'm seeing audio response from you guys now. Listeners, please, I don't know, hit an X in the chat or something if you can hear Zach and Venkman.
Press
Check
1.
1, 2.
Yep.
Check 1, 2, 3. If you like my takes, stop throwing apples at me.
If you like his takes, Breen, say so.
Yeah,
chat.
Brain. Okay, Mariah says now she can hear us. Okay. Cool.
We're sorry. Now you can hear us.
Yeah. It's probably much nicer to listen to when it's just one voice.
A one-sided conversation is kind of weird, though. It's like you're just eavesdropping.
It's really
weird.
Yeah. Thank you,
If
Maranya,
you're
for
listening,
thank you,
Yeah,
Maranya, for letting
yeah.
us know.
you ever
like-
sit behind like one person in a coffee shop that talks really loudly into their cell phone or something?
It's
Yeah.
just Ash arguing with himself.
Cool. All right. No, I've said all that I wanted to on.
They didn't hear you.
Sorry. Oh, they didn't hear. Okay, so what I was saying when I was muted or whatever was I was talking about how during Jeff Johns' original run, the one from like 97, 98 to 06, like the main theme was the mentorship and like the I almost want to say discipleship, but just like the mentoring, the big brother, big sistering of like the original members towards like the new generation. And so we have like these newer, the Young Justice Society. I feel like this is John's way because all those other younger characters, they've kind of all grown since then. They don't really have any, like maybe you have Jakeem, maybe Courtney, Stargirl can still learn a thing or two. But I feel like by and large, most of the younger characters that they had a chance to train, they're not in the position where they need to be anymore. So John's bringing in all these new sidekicks, introduces new students that the senior generation can lead and mentor and train.
Right.
So
that was what
my
I
original
was.
point. Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
part that they didn't hear where I was responding with saying, but the X-Men used to do a similar thing where they would bring in
Yes.
the new characters, but they didn't just bring in like Colossus Jr. and here's new Wolverine. They would bring in an actual new character, and I would be all for that. And some of these characters were, like I said, my only real problem is I didn't like yet another Flash girl because we got a billion Flashes, it seems to me, and I didn't like Helen Wayne. That's my biggest legacy issues. The other characters that I kind of had contention towards were more about like the Ladybug just seems dumb to me. Like I'm just like, it's cringe. It was the kind of character that you would see in The Boys that like Garth Ennis was kind of like poking fun at when they would make some of these pathetic hero teams. I was just like, again, everyone's got a different cup of tea. That's fine. This is my opinions. If you disagree, I'm not trying to make enemies here, but I'm trying to be honest, and
Takes
I
more
get it.
than that to make an enemy of me.
No, but I mean people listening in. I'm not trying to
Okay.
be just adversarial for the sake of pissing people off. That's not my goal. I have opinions. Now I want to say Jeff Johns is a good writer. I read this book and I never feel like, oh, I'm reading garbage. This is a purely subjective thing where Johns is writing something that I'm not into, right? Like I'm just not into it. But as far as is like well written, and that's why I tried to preface that in the beginning. Like if I could pick to be the king of DC, I mean Jeff Johns would be my pick. So I'm not at all trying to trash and say this is a shitty book and you should hate it. But this is just how I feel about these stories, and I want to see more stories with like Jay Garrick and Alan Scott and all the other Justice Society characters' names I don't remember.
Well, I don't think anyone here is going to be reading the Alan Scott miniseries from. I think it's like Tim Seeley has one coming out.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if anyone's going to read that because, thankfully, throughout these 6 issues, nobody has been hit over the head with how Alan Scott is gay now. But I guarantee you that miniseries is going to be over the moon.
And that's my point, though. Like, if this was like pre 2011, like and you're getting this stuff, you would have some people talented like Dan Jurgens or even Robert Venditti writing that Alan Scott thing, and you'd be looking forward to it. You're like, dude, Alan Scott has his own miniseries. Let me read it. Now, some people are just so sick of them taking characters and turning them gay, or just writing them so they're toxic. They hate men. They're just like toxic feminists.
I will say, and I think Breen has said something. I think Breen has said something similar to this. Is like once a change is done, and you really only have two options. You can either like just bash readers over the head with it in every other word bubble, or you can like try to pivot away from it or like shift the focus off of that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that they haven't been laying it on too thick with Alan Scott.
Breen said within 6 months they'll be gay, and I said no, they'll be dead. And he's like, I'm pretty much, it's the same thing. Tim's dead to me. Once it happens, but
yeah.
Honestly, I don't know how much longer DC's gonna be good stuff. I mean, once Mark Waid is off the World's Finest stuff, I might be dropping DC altogether. It all depends what Jeremy Adams is doing, or even Josh. I mean, you're asking for someone who would take over after Jeff Johns, Josh Williamson.
Well, and Mark Waid is taking over. I thought they made Mark Waid the architect.
I took some what?
I thought Mark Waid, I don't know. I know they gave it. He was the main architect of that Lazarus Planet story they did earlier this year.
No, I had heard. I'd have to double check on this, but I had heard that they had made Mark Waid sort of like the de facto, overall creative like architect. I don't think that they didn't give him like a title, kind of the way that Jeff Johns used to have, and I'm guessing that's probably more like a corporate thing that they want to not have anyone locked in to be like the vice president of creative control. They don't want that, but they did make this announcement. I remember when it happened, I was like, when I'd heard it, I was like, oh, Mark Waid, like, because I was more raging against Mark Waid still. It's kind of smoldering now below the surface. It's not quite as bad, and I do think the guy's talented, and I'm happy. As much as I have a problem with Mark Waid, I'd rather have the Mark Waid who writes good stories than that same exact Mark Waid who's also writing bad stories. So the stuff that I've been reading from him at DC has been solid. I think he might be a better fit at DC even than Marvel. I don't know. That's up for you guys to decide. But I think DC is better off for him right now. I think whatever they did, whatever pills they gave him, something to keep him in line. The stuff that I've read has been good. I've always been a fan of Josh Williamson, although I think the guy is way overtaxed. So I don't think you're getting the work out of him that he could deliver. I don't know why Venditti doesn't get more work. That's a guy I would task, but he's
maybe
still around.
Wade.
You got Jeff Johns, you got Jeremy Adams. You've got Ram V
is exclusive now.
Ram V on so there's some strong talent at DC. My big issue is kind of this whole Dawn of DC direction. I'm not on board with. This seems to me like even worse as a directive than New 52 was. Like, I'm really surprised that DC fans aren't, but maybe I think DC fans are more kind of just beat up at this point, so they're just like, whatever, as long as I can get some good stuff, I'm happy. Whereas New 52 was like that first sucker punch that fans weren't ready. We're like, we're used to better stuff. What's going on? So Tehillim says Jim Lee has become a waste of paper for his position. Ooh. Wow, that's pretty harsh. What do you guys think about Jim Lee?
Jim Lee is just kind of he stood back while Didio was doing all this shit. Jim Lee kind of was just there for his name. That's it.
Jim Lee is an artist. Like,
yeah, he's not a businessman.
I mean, if you're gonna have
sort of is a businessman.
Sort of, but he's
Wildstorm Studios was his company.
That's true, but what happened to Wildstorm Studios though?
Got bought
by
DC.
I kind of feel like Jim Lee is kind of like him being in that role is kind of like having someone saying like I set on to be a producer of this movie, but you really you just basically producer and name. That's it.
I think he just wants to draw. I think that putting a storyteller, like an artist, putting them in a business position where they're not able to do what they want to do, It's like he's got to sit in an office. He's got to sit on conference calls and conference meetings. He's
I don't
not
think
just. He's not. I don't. Or like he doesn't have time to. I know he'll put out a cover every now and then.
Here's the thing,
But
though.
like
What's stopping him? Like, he could just go be an artist. He would be a superstar artist. Like, people.
he is a superstar artist.
Right, but I'm just
running
saying,
a
like,
company
this
takes
is
up
the
all
guy
the
that sold
time of
more
the day.
comics than any other artist in history.
Yeah.
So, if I think he could make a living being an artist if he wanted to.
Didn't the fans turn on him when Hush came out?
Did they? I didn't
Well,
read Hush. Like,
all I ever hear when I bring up Hush is like people like, oh, I hate that character.
I didn't hate the character.
Yeah, there's always haters for everything. I mean, just listen to my rant
Yeah,
a
it's
moment
fucking
ago.
legacy, man.
I think it makes more sense to have a writer be like in charge instead of an artist. That's just my own.
Well, here's the thing. People need to understand. Jim Lee is not in the position that Jeff Johns was when he was the vice president or whatever of creative. I forget what his actual title was. Jim Lee is in a more publisher role. He's now the president at DC. He just got promoted. I think that was like a month or two ago. So before then, he was just a VP. And I can't prove it. I don't work at DC or anything, but I strongly suspect that when Dan Didio was there, that he was under Dan Didio. You know, he may have shared a similar like title, but all the evidence kind of points that Jim Lee was like more of a figurehead. So what that tells me is like, well, if that's the case, then he's getting the blame for something that he's not really in charge of. But I kind of understand it because he's got this big title, so people are pointing fingers. Well, now he's the president. So going forward, whatever happens in 2024, I think that's where you start to hold Jim Lee accountable because he is the president of DC. I think that DC's actually, as much as I bitch about things, DC's been doing some strong things. Like I applaud the the Mark Waid move. I hated it. I probably wouldn't have done it myself, but now that it's been done, I think it was the right business decision. Rom V on Batman is great. Jeremy Adams is a strong. I feel like DC is putting pieces in place. It may not be as fast as everyone would want to see. Certainly not for me. I'm not buying DC comics. But I do see strong moves, and I think these sort of things, especially in today's climate, where HR departments aren't going to just let you fire people willy-nilly. You know,
good night, old man.
It's slow. Good night, Breen. We're going to be ending the stream here soon. But I think that's my take on the Jim Lee thing. But I think he's been. I think Tehillim might be right in the sense that he's been a wasted player. I think Jim Lee could have been used for better things.
I'd be wasted too if I was at DC.
DC's doing better than Marvel. We can say whatever we want to, but the fact is, I mean, what Marvel books are we reading and that we are praising? You know, there's Moon Knight, and I know some people are talking about the Hulk.
DC's got the talent.
DC's got all the talent, except for Jed McKay, who is like their version of Joshua Williamson. Marvel doesn't really have anybody unless it's like these little mini series that they do where they get like DeMatteis or, you know.
I would put Mark Miller in the creative control.
Mark Millar?
And watch him annihilate all these multiverses.
Mark Millar did do some good stuff for Marvel. I think his Marvel stuff is some of the best.
He's been talking about that. He's like, how the whole problem is just that this whole multiverse. He's like, and I said, like, wouldn't it be great to have Nemesis just go in the DC universe, just kill all of them, and just have down to limited one verse. That's it. There's no other multiverse.
I'd be happy, but you guys would be crying.
No, I didn't want a multiverse. I'm fed up with multiverses.
DC versus Nemesis? I would love it. I want to see that shit.
No, because I have too many good characters that I love in DC. Go do it to Marvel. Just leave my Fantastic Four alone.
That's the thing, is every character is somebody's favorite, right? Like, so
that's true.
The more you make these characters, it's easy to cull the ones you don't like.
Well, right? I would say currently right now, I'd be upset for a while, but then I get over it because you know what? I'm reading from 1987 to 2006. I'm enjoying it. Every single title.
Yep, I guess that's what I need to do is go back to 1999 Justice Society and just start there and just
Yeah,
Start with Stargirl.
it's a top tier comic run, dude. I'm like, if I could only read 5 comic runs for the rest of my life, the JSA run is up there from the 97 through 2006.
Marania says Mark Millar set Marvel on the path it is today with Civil War, Peter revealing his identity to the public that led one more day, and so on. She's not wrong. However, it should be noted, as a devil's advocate here, the Civil War was was probably the last really popular big event at Marvel, I would say.
The last popular one, yeah.
Popular event. Like it was a
I
pretty
wouldn't say
loved event at
good.
the time.
There was one good event that Hickman wrote, but it was pretty limited to just the Avengers. It wasn't like a big crossover like Civil War was.
Yeah. So the other thing is Mark Millar may have set the stages that other people used and abused, but I wouldn't necessarily blame Millar for that, right? It's kind of like Jonathan Hickman kind of set up the Krakoa era of X-Men. I don't blame Hickman for that, like, because the thing he did, the House of X, Powers of X, was really good, and then he brought over Teeny Howard and all those people, and yeah, so
Well, same thing with his Old Man Logan. That's one of my favorite stories that he did was Old Man Logan. Doesn't mean that he's responsible for Marvel then turning around and milking that when they bring him back into, they bring Old Man Logan in to replace regular Wolverine who died, and
wasn't Logan Old Man Duggan?
Wait, what?
Was it Mid Duggan wrote that?
No, Old Man Logan was Mark Millar and Steve
the
McTivish.
original one.
The original one, yeah.
I think Jeff Lemire took over and did the series.
Oh, did he really? I might want to check that out then. If it was Jeff Lemire.
I went Old Man Duggan. I went in the right Logan.
Dominic says Mark Millar also brought up veterans of the comic book industry and are not getting work from the big three as much as they used to. They also don't allow him to mentor new authors. They also don't allow them to mentor new authors or artists.
Oh.
I'm not sure. I don't fully understand the context of your tweet, Dominic, or tweet.
I guess he's saying that Chuck Dixon's not allowed to go anywhere near current writing staff at DC, probably.
Could be something like that. As far as what Mark Millar is currently doing, Mark Millar is also giving the top tier artists a lot of work. Because DC and Marvel don't want to pay top tier artists apparently. So,
and he's making more money.
Yep.
So Mark Millar
he's a little AEW going against the WWE.
I want to see this big game thing that Millar is doing transition into a Miller world. I want to see Mark Millar actually make his own shared universe. Right now that big games come out and he's kind of linking all these previously unassociated books together. Have this be the launch of the Miller World comics, and just make these books, whatever stuff he invents in the future, make it all in the same world, so that it is that way from the beginning. And instead of canceling the books after he's done with them, bring on some of these good writers. Do what he's doing with artists, with writers. It's like, oh, Robert Venditti, is DC not giving you any work to do because they're stupid? I got these characters I wrote, whatever, and I'm kind of done with my story I had to tell, but maybe you can continue on and we can have an ongoing series.
Dan Jurgens coming right to Nightclub.
Dan Jurgens, right? Yeah. See? I feel like I need to call Mark and give him an idea.
I don't think he could do that with some of these series after how Big Game has been going so far.
No, because I hear what you're saying, but what he's doing though, he's be cleaning the slate, so for lots of new material to come out.
What I think would be cool, and this is completely different direction, but if they ever translated Big Game into a movie or a mini series on Netflix, go find the actors from the Kick-Ass movie from way back when and have them come back and reprise their roles.
So let me give you an elevator pitch. So in Big Game, he's killing off a lot of stuff, right? We saw the ambassadors just get annihilated, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, it still hurt, right? Okay. But what if Mark Millar was like, I already told my story with ambassadors. I don't have any new stuff I really want to do. However, I'm not opposed to ambassadors' stories going on. So what if, let's just say hypothetically, I brought in someone like, I don't know, like Robert Venditti. I show him, here's what I did previously with ambassadors. They're dead, but there's room to like have a second generation of ambassadors, right? Because that technology presumably still exists. What can you come up with? What story ideas can you come up with? Is this, oh yeah, I got some idea. Oh yeah, run with it. And you have ambassadors the next generation,
Yeah, yeah.
name to be determined. And
Deep
now,
Space Nine.
now
Yeah.
not only do you have the original material that we liked, but now you can bring in a new creative team to do more material that doesn't have to conflict with the old material, right? Because you're working in a kind of a new sandbox. So it's not like, oh, you got this character wrong or you did this, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that could work.
Good work.
I would read
I
it.
mean, well, that's going on assumption that he's not going to bring all of them back to life at the end.
No, that's true.
I don't. I don't think he's going to. None of his tweets or comments or interviews have.
With time, you introduce time travel. You get the magic order.
Oh yeah, but he killed off the time travel thing pretty quick.
Yeah.
Well, no, he killed off the two guys there, but the magic order can bring back those two guys back to life, and they can go back and do it in that time.
That's true. The magic order creates a big problem in his world.
And they actually haven't even been brought up really in big game yet. Like we haven't seen the family or anything.
Yeah.
So who knows how that's going to factor in.
Dominic says superheroes are still active in the universe of Jupiter's Legacy and Super Crooks. No, Dominic, that's all one universe now.
Jupiter's Legacy and Super Crooks, if I'm correct, all of that took place prior to like that missing year, right? Like that was in the 80s, I think. So yeah, they still had the superheroes, and then there's that missing year where the villains wiped out all the heroes and wiped out the memory of all the heroes until stories like Kick-Ass and Nightclub and Ambassadors take place.
Yeah, and that's like where heroes are coming back, and then the villains, namely Wesley, who's like, we got to now do something again because they're creeping back. It's like when you get the exterminator to get all the roaches gone, and everything's like, it's all clean, and then like 5 years later you see a roach, you're like,
Yep.
I was in actually, and even before Big Game, Wesley was in Wanted. Wanted was all about them, how about the heroes stuff. They're starting to come back.
But that was like 20 years ago.
Yeah,
I know. Just saying, it's just been in the works for a while.
Yeah, and what's interesting too, I like that, sort of like, is that it's real time. So this big game, for those of you that aren't following the big game thing, all these characters have aged. It's not like Marvel and DC where there's like a pretty stagnant timeline. Like Kick-Ass is in the book, right? But he's like 25 years older because that's how old, long ago the book was written. So like all the years that have gone between
driving,
yeah, like these characters have been aging in real time. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I really wanted to introduce the whole multiverse too. They're going to because the villains were going to alternate Earths to grab something like they went and grabbed the trophies. They grabbed like a kryptonite cock ring. It was ridiculous. I was like, "Is this the boys?"
Yeah, that was that was Miller when he was at his most edgy. All right, man. I think we should wrap up the show because Venkman has talked about needing his beauty sleep. Didn't you guys have any final things though that you wanted to mention or talk about?
Well, I don't want to talk about it, but I feel like it needs to be brought up given that we're all avid fans of this comic series.
Yeah, Helena Lane is awesome.
No, shh. It was brought up earlier this week that Robert Kirkman and Chris Samnee's excellent Firepower series will be coming to an end in December with a giant size issue number 30. And I read that headline and my heart just sank a little lower in my chest that day. It was very sad. So past December, we will not have the great Chris Samnee and Robert Kirkman doing kung fu, fireballs, and dragon stories. It's very sad.
It wraps up and then it comes back in.
I'm really frustrated with Robert Kirkman on that news.
Maybe there's upside. Maybe him canceling this allows him to continue writing The Walking Dead after he gets to the.
That's the part that ticks me off is Walking Dead, which is a boring ass thing
Wow!
to me.
Wow!
It gets to go on for like 100+ issues, but Firepower, which gets my attention, gets to look at 30 issues
Zach,
is a respectable run.
we've already established that you don't like good things.
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead is the most successful independent comic of all time.
That is true.
It's beloved by everybody,
with it.
except the guy who doesn't like the good things.
I like good things. I just got bored with it. It got to be.
Zach likes good things. Zach likes legacy characters. He's okay.
I will say, I mean, the thing is, the only way that I can think of this in a good light is, okay, Kirkman had a story he set out to tell, and rather than reach that and then just drag stuff on to the point where it's like you have a jump the shark moment and then everything starts to degrade in quality, it's better to just end it right there and not see it degrade, not see it go down in the quality of the storytelling or anything.
I hope they end it with what's his name? Owen? Is that what his name is?
Owen, yeah.
I hope his wife gets the winning punch.
I think things are like just getting going in Firepower. There's so much world building to happen. I have a feeling though that this was not by original intention, because I remember when the hiatus was going on and we were wondering, like, is Firepower done? Is it like, what's happened? Did it get canceled? And Robert Kirkman had said something that like he had planned out like all sorts of world building, and we were like, oh, okay, he's going to go on for a long time, and then it finally comes back off a hiatus, and it's only going to be like 5 or 6 issues. That makes me go, maybe this book's not selling, so they're just pulling the plug.
Maybe. Yeah, that could be it. You know, he could be making this from a businessman's perspective, because he is what is he, like the editor-in-chief of Skybound or something like that? Like he's got a business position, I think.
He's also got to do those Transformers and G.I. Joe for that.
Well, he's not writing those. I think he's writing Void Rivals, but he's not writing.
He's overseeing that. Remember, there was another comic book he was supposed to do that was advertised when they had Clementine. It was for his appearance comic book. There was another one he was going to do, but he never wrote it. Ash, remember that one? It was in the Skybound X.
Clementine came out. They got like a sequel on the works.
There was another one in that same
Skybound X. Well, yeah, there was supposed to be one coming out, and it never came out.
Yeah, no, it came out. The sequel's on the way.
Coded one?
Clementine. Sorry. Okay, you're talking about, I don't know about that. Yeah. Code. It was called Code.
Code, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that.
So makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, like, is he? Because remember, Kirkman's also been writing some stuff too as well. He's got his IMDb credits. He's been writing stuff. He's also been working with the Walking Dead spinoffs, which are also being renewed for seasons. So I wonder how much time he has for writing.
Yeah, he is busy, and I don't mind if he was going on hiatus. Like, go on hiatus again.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't feel like we're gonna have a satisfactory ending where there's only like a couple more issues left. Like, there's so much build up and things to explore that if you just kind of like, oh, and then all the family and everyone learns how to use fireballs and they beat the dragon in the end. Like,
and that's the thing too. If they beat a dragon, like, what else is there to do though? Like, in terms of like conflict, like how much bigger can you go? Like, unless you want to make like an army of dragons, which seems kind of like, okay, you're kind of jumping the shark. The big dragon was like a huge enough ordeal with the reveal and everything. Well, now you're gonna tell us there's a herd of them or what?
Well, you're assuming that they would beat the dragon. Like, if this could be a thing where they don't actually beat the dragon. If the series is going on.
You think he goes Walking Dead and he just starts, like, the dragon just starts killing family members?
Well, I'm thinking more. They're gonna find Dragon Balls and make a wish, and that's the end.
Oh my goodness.
So anyway, I didn't mean to turn this into a whole extra thing, but I know we're all big fans.
No, it's worth talking about. That was big. That was big comic news.
Yeah, so that was very upsetting. But 30 issues, look, if you get past 12, I think you're doing all right these days, which speaks to how sad the comic industry has fallen. But
yeah, that's what Bat said on my Discord. He's like, oh, that's a good number of issues, and I'm like, yeah, but Walking Dead was 193 issues, Invincible was 144 issues. right?
I mean,
And then you
you
get
don't know this.
down, you get down to
This is like third.
you get down to Obsidian or Oblivion Song was 36 issues. Now Firepower is only 30 issues. Every series he's doing is getting less and less, right? So
Yep.
does that mean Void Rival is going to be like 20 issues? Like this is not good, a good sign to where it's like eventually Robert Kirkman's like, yeah, I just do 6-issue series from now on. You know,
And see, that's the type of series that I hate. Like, I don't want to. Like, Mark Millar kind of combats that. He'll do like multiple volumes, like he's done with like Magic Order or Kingsman. I think Kingsman.
Jupiter's
Or
Legacy.
Chrononauts, Jupiter's Legacy. Like, he'll do volumes. So it's like, okay, I can kind of get behind that. I would rather it all be in one run, but at least you're keeping the story and the characters going. And it's not just like 6 issues, boom, you're done.
right?
So he kind of does that, but yeah, overall, I'm so fed up with miniseries. I like the collectability. That's one of the reasons I liked Firepower.
Yep.
Marvel and DC. The reason I stuck with them for so long was because they had a lot of ongoing titles. Now, it's not as much now. I think Moon Knight got up into the 20s so far, so that's still doing okay. But
27
yeah, shocking.
was it,
They're like on
yeah,
issue
I know,
27.
really. I think they only started the title because they had the Disney Plus show. So the fact that it's gone on this long, I find it really surprising. But yeah, that's one thing that really pushed me into the indie book scene was there were some indie books like Firepower. You mentioned Invincible. Some of the indie books have like a longer ongoing rate than a lot of the big 2 books. So yeah, it's upsetting. Who knows? Maybe he'll bring it back. He'll do like a Firepower Next Generation. Who knows? But it is upsetting. I'm a big Chris Samney fan. This title, this story made me a Chris Samney fan.
Yeah.
And so now I'm gonna have to look for his art somewhere else, which it's out there, but it is upsetting.
I mean, he'll get on a new book somewhere, I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
he's doing a lot of covers for DC.
he is. Yeah, he's doing a lot of coloring. He's doing a lot of covers. Yeah, but covers aren't interior. I'm more impressed if you can get an artist of his caliber on an interior and not just a cover.
Everyone's like saying, it's like, well, since Firepower is ending, can we get a Ryan Otley back on working with Kirkman again?
I don't care. I don't care too much for Ryan Otley's art, if I'm being honest. It's all right with Invincible, but like I saw his Spider-Man art, it just felt like Invincible wearing Spider-Man costume.
Hey,
I think Otley's gotten a lot better since Invincible.
Yeah. I just like to pretend that the Hulk is in the same universe. It's Invincible. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think maybe the book isn't selling well. Maybe it's a case where Kirkman's got the Hasbro license and he's decided to like put all his attention because he's got 4 books.
Yeah.
Coming out for
he's
that.
Like going all in with the Energon universe, maybe.
Yeah, so maybe he just wants to focus his attention on that.
We don't know what books he hasn't announced yet. He might be working on other books right now.
That's true too.
That's true too. But that would bother me though. Like I'm just like I don't care about your new book. Finish the one that I like. Don't cancel the ones I like to try to lure me into something new.
The thing with Walking Dead, he always knew what he was going to do for the ending. He was just working his way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
For this one, maybe he only was going to do so many issues of Firepower. And that was just it.
Here's the thing. Here's something. Here's a thought. This is me being super wishful, optimistic boy. What if how like Kirkman will like just pop up surprises with his books, like, oh hey, Void Rivals #1, it'll be coming out, but then like 2 days before it comes out, he's like, oh, there's a Transformers cameo or something, and it kind of ups the demand of the book. Or like he did like that Skybound X issue number 25 when there was no, nothing between 7 and 24. He'll like do those kind of like weird announcements or weird things right before a book comes out.
Mm-hmm. He didn't announce. He didn't announce. That was leaked.
It was leaked. Okay, I know.
Yeah,
there are books
I think he wanted that to be a surprise.
Oh, okay. I know. Well, I know he did that. Like I said, Skybound X. There was another book that he did too.
No, he does that a lot. He did that with Die Die Die. Like where it just launched.
Yeah.
Like they didn't tell stores or anything. What they did is they gave every store a number of issues equal to their order for Oblivion Song.
Ah, okay.
And so stores just had the comic show up. It had never been solicited or anything. It was like, here's however many issues of Die Die Die. And so no one knew. That was a really cool thing that he did.
Well, here's where I'm getting. What if, he has, Firepower number 30 comes out and he doesn't solicit it. He doesn't, drop a bomb or anything to let people know. But it's like you get to the end and you're like, oh, by the way, issue number 31, like it's like a fake out. And like he has an issue 31 or
whatever. That would be funny. The opposite of Walking Dead, where he like told people
opposite,
it was like keep continuing and it actually stopped. Solicited fake issues.
Yeah.
My comic book store is still pissed off at that. The girl that manages the store that I go to, I'm like, because I'm a big Kirkman fan, so I'm talking to her, and she's just like, I'm like, what's the matter, man? Kirkman's cool. Look at all the things he did. And then he's like, do you understand what I did? And I was ordering all these books and stuff, and they weren't even real books. And I was like, yeah, I guess I didn't take it from the consideration of the person doing the comic ordering and all that stuff. Like, he gave you a lot of work that was like not real. Like, I was like, yeah, that sucks, but still, it was cool. Come on. Like, so anyways, all right. Anybody, you, Venkman? Any other things on your mind besides Firepower? I know you're really distraught
about Firepower. I mean, if he only had an idea that he wanted to basically just defeat the dragon and that's it, and have ending, sure. Okay, I mean, if he really wanted to write longer, he wouldn't have time jumped from the prelude going into. He would explain more about
you hate the time jumps.
Yeah, I do.
It's
a cop out.
Venkman is to time jumps what I am to legacy characters.
So I'm gonna let you know, Venkman, if you do get into One Piece's anime, there is a time jump. I'm just gonna put that out there, give you fair warning.
I'll only say this: if it's a time jump where it's going to a better part, where like the first part sucks and then actually time jumps and it gets better, that's the exception to the rule. But overall, it's kind of like Firepower. You guys are really into that. To me, it's just like Oblivion Song. I kind of got into it, but then I was like, it kind of like Firepower. I forgot it was even it was gone for so long. I forgot it was even around. So I got to the point where I was like, oh, that's right, Firepower. Forgot all about that.
Firepower is like comfort food comics. It's not like the best comic, but it's always like satisfying. It's like a nice bowl of mac and cheese. You're just like, all right, yeah.
It's wholesome and just good art, and
And the fact that it was like ongoing. Like if Firepower was like a 6-issue series, I'd just be like, oh, whatever. It's like, the ongoing nature of it, and that's another thing. We talk about Mark Millar, like everything he does is miniseries, and I'm with you, Zach. I don't like the miniseries, but some writers, that's what they excel at, right? Like Frank Miller only knows how to write miniseries, right? So it's like, okay, I have to take it. But Robert Kirkman excels at long form. He's my dream pick for someone. If I could say, like, hey, if you're gonna like redo Uncanny X-Men, the old school X-Men that I loved, Robert Kirkman would be my choice because he knows how to take a story and write 100 issues of it and not have it all die out.
So I agree with that. So here's the problem. I can see you're talking about how Kirkman keeps writing less and less. What if he goes from what basically was Xenoscope did, 6-issue miniseries, and you have an annual, and then he does another 6 issues. Now they only do like 32 or every other month of a certain character. Like what if you just get like one 32-page book and that's it, and then you gotta wait like another 4 or 5 months.
Well, it's the thing. It's Kirkman, in my opinion, just like Chris Claremont, neither of them I think excel in short form. I think that their talents really flesh out in the bigger scope. When you can get like long stories over months and months and months, you go, oh, okay, this is the saga. They're really good at telling sagas. I've never read anything by Chris Claremont that like was just like a short, either a one shot or just a really short miniseries, with the exception of the Wolverine miniseries, which he co-wrote with Frank Miller. So be that as it may.
Here's the problem. if they're gonna write long form ongoings, which I'm all for, but you gotta have people buying them. What I'm seeing here, like with
Yeah.
Xenoscope, is if nobody's buying the 6 issues and then the annual, maybe they're only buying 2 issues in an annual. Well, then because Xenoscope isn't Marvel, they don't have Marvel money or Marvel publicity, they're gonna have to tone down, or scale down their issue numbers to, make everything profitable
But
or
the
make it.
but
Yeah.
the difference is that they just like Marvel, um, Marvel makes selling merch. Zenoscope sells tons of prints, a lot of variants, and a lot of pinups and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They're like
Xenoscope knows.
they're like the Kickstarter, but it actually goes to the store.
But
Yeah.
does it make them as much as it would selling issues?
Xenoscope has a
That's
totally
my
different
question.
audience. I don't
That's
think
true.
people are
Yeah.
buying
I'm
into
just using
Xenoscope.
them.
No, I'm not
I'm
saying
just
you are.
using
I'm not
them as an
arguing with you. I'm
example.
just
Yeah.
saying they know who their audience is. They're kind of that niche group that wants the product kind of that Xenoscope gives, and the occasional sampling of it is fine. Robert
Mhm.
Kirkman, conversely, is in my opinion, his audience is the people that have loved following his work. People loved Walking Dead for years and
Yep.
years and years. Like
Infinite
they
Soul
just
is another banger. Yep.
yeah, and it's like I don't think Robert Kirkman has the audience that's like, yeah, give us a cool 6-issue story and be done. Like I don't think that's his fan base, but I could be wrong. But
That's
it's not
true.
me.
You've got a good point there. You do have a good point with Kirkman's fan base, but like the thing that I've said this before in several other instances, but it's like, okay, you've got a fan base, but like with the economy being the way it is right now, does his fan base have enough to where they can justify, like if they're doing what I do and they look at their pull list, are they putting firepower, are they putting whatever, like what are they putting in there, absolutely need to get this pull list versus Marvel or DC or whatever. It's like they could be budgeting, they could just be stop getting comics altogether just because of how expensive. There's just different reasons I can think
Of
of why
course.
maybe Firepower, because I recommend it. Like anybody asks me a comic to read, I'm gonna say Firepower is one of like my top 5 over the past 2 or 3 years. It's been like one of the top books that I recommend, and people will be like, "Oh, who puts that out?" Marvel. I was talking with a friend of mine about it this earlier this week. She's like, "Oh, does DC put that out?" I was like, "No, it's an independent book." And she's like, "Oh, really?" So like she didn't know that it came out. So
I don't know.
that, yeah.
Is Kirkman becoming kind of like Hickman? People love him, but they won't follow him till like he's an independent project. What's his name had this problem? Was Hickman had this issue when he went to Substack. He had fans at Marvel DC and it's like for his X-Men stuff, Hoxpox and stuff, but they didn't follow him to Substack.
Well, Substack isn't him putting out issues. That's just
No,
like a
but he was
newsletter.
working. He was working on an exclusive
Well, that's
book
not
with him.
true. They were they were doing exclusive stuff. But Substack is a
Oh, were they?
subscription.
Oh,
People don't
okay.
want to pay $7 a month and then not be
Yeah,
Substack's a stupid model for comics. I was
it is.
criticizing that when all these people went over to it. It just I'm not going to
So I
subscribe
had.
like to imagine I have like 6 different comic book creators that I love and they all do $7 Substacks. I'm going to pay $42 a month to follow their
Yeah,
Substack. No, just put out your books. I'll buy your books.
right. That's what I
So
did with. I subscribed to Scott Snyder's Substack for a bit, but he treated his. His was more like a newsletter. Like he didn't have any
yeah, and
exclusive
he also
comics
did like a
or
writing
anything.
school on it.
He did do the writing school. That is true. He
Yeah,
did do that, and he did also offer like autographed copies of books that he
I like how
What
Snyder
so.
did that.
was his classes on how to drag out a plot of a book and then
Don't
not know how to
you
finish it?
besmirch Scott Snyder on this stream?
Yeah,
How dare you, sir?
I like
Zack
to make
Snyder,
I like to
maybe.
make a vampire, but it was really stretched out. There's a couple times like it's like where is he going with it? He's like, oh, he's doing the long form and he's going decade by decade. Because he needs more time to friggin' figure out how to finish it. And then the end, kaiju.
See, that's okay. So that's an example actually of like what I was talking about with Firepower. I would rather Robert Kirkman have a definite ending and then just cut it off after that, rather than do what you said. If he stretches it out way longer than it needs to go out, to where again the quality of the story degrades, and then you just kind of like, oh, this used to be great, and now
Well,
it's just kind of
well,
mid.
The reason it worked for Snyder for that though was a bad thing is because Snyder had vampires. Vampires they can survive decades, so he just basically went from decades to decades, and has they meet new characters. You still have the same original two, and then you had an Uber like a villain, entity towards the end. That's where the main protagonist, Sweet Tooth, had to like work with his protege, Pearl, who hated him. And you see how he has a redemption arc at the end of the series. I was like, what the hell? It was just I thought it was pretty cool, but I was like, kaiju, and something that even vampires and all the monsters, he world built in the going through those 3 volumes.
I just learned that a comic called American Vampire has a kaiju at the end. So now
Yeah,
I've
well,
had it spoiled.
well, you read it anyway.
Talk about
sir.
jumping the shark.
Ba-dum-psh.
Well, kids,
Uh,
that's time to wrap things up. Whenever the kaiju show up with a vampire story, it's time to end.
Well, I'm just saying, whenever a kaiju appears in the 1500s, that's when it's time to end, right?
That's when it's time to start. We started with it.
Yeah.
Now they
Yeah.
show up in a
Now we're
vampire
ending.
story. It's
It's
time.
full circle.
Yeah, when Fonzarelli jumps the shark, it's time to end.
Yep.
Thank you guys
When the
for
shark jumps Fonzarelli,
being
it's time
here
to
and
end.
listening to us, and I gave you
Being
guys
part of the conversation too.
yeah, being part of the conversation.
Thank you
Really
for
appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for coming to our TED Talk, and why legacy characters will always be amazing.
Amazingly bad for comics. The end.
Your mileage may vary.
It's kilometers in Canada, you bigot.
Yeah. Canada's on fire. What do they know?
Are they still on fire?
I heard they were. I actually meant to ask you that. I have a friend. He lives up in Missouri, and he said that they would still he can still smell whiffs of smoke and everything coming from Canada. It's like I need to ask RDV about that.
I've been
40
smelling these.
minutes later.
We
Good night, everyone.